Public Law 1975. This is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2025 to the News Record and the Star Ledger in December of 2024, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Daffis,
Present.
Mr. DeLuca, Engel,
Here.
Herman, Mayor Adams.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. Whereas the desire of the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit except as set forth in the
That was
formal
fun.
agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Ms. Engel,
Yes.
Ms. Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Please rise for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, February 3rd budget hearing for the Township's 2025 budget. Tonight, we will be hearing from a couple of our outside organizations, if you will, Maplewood Village Alliance, Springfield Avenue Partnership, the Community Coalition on Race, Youthnet, and then the Historic Preservation Commission will be here. Then we'll move on to police and OEM, the Health Department, our Maplewood Library, Municipal Court, and then Finance. And then we will have public comment, and we will meet tomorrow night for the Township Committee meeting. So let's roll. Okay. Is the Village Alliance here? Yes, you're right there, right up front. Please come on up. Patrick, Mr. where would you like them? Next to you? Or both at the podium? Okay.
You can take turns.
So thank you very much for coming tonight, and please introduce yourself to the millions who are viewing.
The executive director of the Maplewood Village Alliance District. And this is Amy Howlett, the president of our MBA Maplewood Village Alliance Board. And we're both our budget for 2025 and talking about some highlights from 2024 and some goals for 2025, and then here to answer any questions along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to start off by just providing a overview of some highlights for the year from this past year. So as you probably are, I started in this role full-time in September. So we had a bit of transition and flux over the spring period and summer while there was no full-time director. So since I've assumed the role of executive director, I've made my mission to keep things growing full steam ahead. And during since I've been here in September, had 4 new board members, 3 of which are merchants, join the MBA. One is a SOMA Chamber of Commerce liaison, who joined this year, which we haven't had in the last few years. It's a really crucial role for joining and linking all the merchants, not just Village with downtown, but with the whole Chamber of Commerce. I've also worked on revamping and restructuring the committees, so we have more frequent and regular meetings. We have more procedures in place to follow, so things are just more streamlined and more organized. The committees that we have, just by reference, are the Design Review Committee, Strategic Planning and Parking, Events, Beautification, and Nominations. I've also reinstituted frequent contact and email updates with merchants, fostering an engaging merchant environment so they have point of contact and reference and feel comfortable and know who I am, know my face, and they can reach out to me and we have an open dialogue. We've hosted a merchant mixer. We've had resumed regular news updates, also public facing to our mailing distribution list of over 5,000 people. We're working on updating the website. And we've had a few facade grants since September. And we've also had the success of the local map that we commissioned by a local artist that we've been able to distribute and share to help engage the community with shopping and spending money downtown and revitalizing and continuing to foster further growth for local businesses, which proved to be really successful over the holidays where the merchants had a really successful season in sales. We've had also 4 ribbon cuttings and the launch of the official Baker Square. So those are some highlights of 2024. And some of our goals that we hope to focus on this year is with our newly enhanced board, we want to further enhance and revitalize Maplewood businesses, being even more dynamic and successful than they are in our current state. We have some key goals in strategic development that will include further developing and improving public placemaking and public art, which we'll get to in our budget. Larger media outreach to neighboring towns, is particularly with events that we've noticed we are getting more foot traffic from surrounding towns, which is great. And we want to continue to foster that growth of neighboring towns to continue to come to Maplewood on a more regular. We are offering our guidance and hopefully involvement in the proposed redevelopment of the movie theater, which is still underway and hasn't yet started, but we hope to be actively involved in that so we can be a strategic partner in maintaining Maplewood's historic charm, aesthetics, and historic preservation, while also offering business opportunities in the future. So those are our main highlights and goals from last year and this year. I think we can save questions to the end, if that's all right. That's probably the best way to do it, and we'll dive right into the budget because that's the reason we're here today.
Yeah. We wanted to provide that update so you have some context for our budget. There are going to be a lot of changes in our budget because some of our what we're talking about are more long-term goals other than but one key change that I do want to highlight for you is we are asking to increase our budget so that we can increase our compensation for our executive director. In the limited time I've held the Maplewood Alliance board, we've seen 5 different executive directors come through, and I think this is partly due to the fact that the position has historically been woefully underfunded, perhaps not even paying what we would call living wage, and it also is much lower than what counterparts are making in other business improvement districts, including our neighbors on Springfield Avenue and in South Orange. Frankly, I won't back the elephant on house is somewhat sexist, but I think it is vitally important that we raise the pay for our executive directors so that it is fair and what other executive directors are making, so that we can retain someone in this position who will stay and actually make a difference. We have lost so much time in the transition throughout the years, and we really need to have our board employees, and we are in great shape. We have a great diverse board, a great mix of energy and institutional knowledge, and we really need an effective executive director like Erin Rose to stay in the position a long time, and we want to make sure we're paying that person fairly. So we are to what we think is a market rate, even maybe a little bit lower than market, but much better. So that's the one thing I want to flag for you, and then I'll come back to that when Erin Rose gets to the assessment part. And she's just going to go over a couple of things. There really aren't many changes.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So if we move down, you have copies of the budget, hopefully.
We do.
So we're moving down to design and beautification. A lot of this is maintaining the status quo, of keeping Maplewood beautiful and engaging and welcoming. Biggest change will be wanting to put some money into public art this year. So it's something we've wanted to do over the last few years, and we haven't had the budget to. The last couple of years, we really focused on Baker Square, which was a huge placemaking endeavor. So this year, we want to focus on public art. That will be the main change in the beautification budget. Everything else is very similar to what it has been, and ongoing maintenance. Baker Square specifically, because it's new, revitalized, so to keep it in the state and the condition it's in, we do need to invest some time and money into that as well, which it had previously not had. So then we move on to our marketing budget, and again, this is similar to what it has been in last year, with a marginal increase, with the intention of hoping to cast a wider net with our marketing and promotions, like I was addressing in my intro about how we hope to this year tap into surrounding towns, not just our own town. So a slightly bigger marketing and promotional budget for when we do have things like downtown events, summer music series, art walk, and so forth, Dickens Village. And then we're also promotions, we will be removing that from a line item from the budget, just because we're not actually investing money in that area. We will be having cross promotions with arts and culture, which is one to be aware that anything related to those things we are actively involved in and help sharing, promoting, and raising awareness. It's just that we won't have to invest any money in that thing.
And it's somewhat folded into marketing as well.
Yeah, so that probably you won't see it in the next budget, just so you're aware that these things are happening. They're just not line items we necessarily need to point out going forward. Dickens Village budget is pretty much on par with what it's been the last few years, with no real changes. We do have an expanded committee, which is great, because I know former Mayor Davenport is looking to hopefully pass the baton on the big endeavor, and we have a bigger committee now and more involved, which is great, to help the bulk of the work off her plate. But in terms of budget, it's more or less remaining the same. The houses and then in terms of our total miscellaneous budget, networking and relationship management, that's something that I am a really key proponent on. And that, for example, will be things like a merchant mixer and ongoing merchant events that we do host, engagement with the PW, police department, and so on, that help us. So we want to be able to host and engage the community, and that does cost money. And engaged in them and continue to foster a development relationship with the merchants and the township. So that's where that increased amount comes from. So that is the expenses side of the budget. And if we move now to the other side, which is the revenue side, which will,
So we're looking to, in order to, because our the other side of the budget is increasing slightly, we're looking to increase our assessment. We continue to represent, which frankly, when you look at how much inflation went up last year, I don't think 30% is outrageous. I will also add that this budget was voted on almost unanimously by the members of our board, which is property and residents, and there was only one vote against this. Otherwise, it was just surprisingly all hands up enthusiastically in favor of this. Because again, we do see that it's vital that we see it as our mission to move beyond the status quo this year, maintain someone in our executive director position, and really be able to make a positive impact on the to increase our placemaking efforts. And we've been heartened by our efforts on Baker Square, what kind of difference we can actually make. And so I think this represents our ability to.
yeah, thank you, Amy. So in terms of ongoing beautification, the service level agreement with the township will remain the same. We're not requesting anything in that category. And then we hope to continue to get sponsorships and partnership with arts and culture for things like the September Music Series, and also just township for merchants in the town as well, for to maintain our events effectively. For beautification, the same thing. Sorry, so in terms of beautification as well, the idea would be, we're hoping to spend around $10,000 on public art, but we do hope to raise most of that through donation, in order to continue to enhance the downtown area. Yes, and the SLA will remain the same as indicated, and then, yes, events will be mostly through sponsorship, merchant participation, and through partnering with arts and culture. Any questions?
Well, first, we're looking at part of why we want to make sure it's strong director in the position and to pay, a professional wage, what would make another town, is we're able to look at ways that we can, creative ways that we can increase our budget in other ways, and maybe engage in grant writing and application for other types of incentives that are available to downtowns, and can't ask that of someone unless we're paying them fairly, I think, and so that's kind of the reasoning behind.
Does anyone have any questions for? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that you are capturing the assessment on the Claris, because the Claris was tax exempt. This is I think this is the first year it's fully not tax exempt. Okay.
So the proposed assessment is about $10,000 more than the actual and budget for 2024. Does that include the Claris, and how much? So how much is, if you took the Claris out, I guess is what I'm asking, how much would that increase be for the assessment on the properties? No, I'm more asking like, is the Claris like an extra 2,000 in that? Is the Claris the bulk of that? Are you planning on, is there an increase to the basic assessment is what I'm asking? Okay. Yeah.
What was the 9% then that you said? Was that not what? Oh, the total assessment, not towards I'd also be just interested in seeing, like, I've seen grids done before where you can see what the increase is or what the actual amount increase is per property. But I just want to note that, like, I agree that the salary for the executive director of our Maplewood Village SID has been very, very low. And I agree that the turnover and what is required of a SID manager, it's just, I mean, I'm for paying more for quality people in the positions, and it is a hard job and it is a lot of hours. And I feel like 80,000 is that lower end of market value, but it is market value, and I would support increasing it.
It's full-time now though, right? Yeah, but I think part of the reason to feel that way is for years it was part-time, which I always thought was not productive because part-time directors tend to work more hours than they're being paid for. Yeah. Yeah, stop that. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real. Did you find that, Mr. Daffis?
Well, ironically, I have the exact number for the forthcoming Baker Street property, which will come online on 2028.
Oh.
But I do not have, which will, in case you want to know about that one, add roughly 4.3 million in value, increasing our budget by $6,100 exactly. But unfortunately, this analysis that was prepared
Doesn't include.
it does include the Claris, but
Doesn't.
it doesn't tease out what the Claris addition.
So did the board vote for an increase in their own, in the assessment?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get at, what that number is, because for years they voted against it constantly and it was silly.
And I feel like we have I don't know, it's a stupid word, Cracker Jack word. And we should raise that.
Okay, Mr. Ware, can you ask CFO to give us that breakdown? So I can,
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out exactly what they voted on
Yeah.
at your board, because if they voted to raise the assessments from 99,000 to 109,000, that's one vote. But if the majority of that or all of that might come from the
From the Claris,
Claris, then
that's what I
there's
mean.
no increase.
right.
Yeah.
And so
Clear
we had talked in the past about
Yes.
Progressive.
the village
Yeah.
increasing their assessment by a percentage every year, because we recognize the issue. And quite honestly, there's always been there's always been an effort to go on the cheap in the village.
Yep.
And the idea of putting properties like the Claris there is not to flatten the increase for everyone else. It's to bring in new money so you can do more things.
That's,
So I
that's
would,
why I
you know,
want
we
the
may have
numbers.
to come back and talk to you some more about.
I'm speaking Greek.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
that's-
yeah.
I guess I wasn't
I
being.
think
Yes.
we were
That's the
looking-
point.
We were looking at like a 3 to 5% increase a year.
That's what I was thinking. What I've seen is like a
Of
3 to
assessment.
5%
Not
increase of
total, but
assessment
of
per
assessment.
property, and then the new stuff would be an added value.
We definitely need to get a definitive number. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when you,
so-
and when you break it down too, you can see that like some property owners, maybe it's only a $25 increase per year or whatever it is. And when you break it, it helps the story to tell property owners, like it, you know, it sounds big, 3 to 5%, but it might only be like $30 a year.
Yeah, I think Mr. Ware is going to talk to the CFO about that and get a breakdown of what that is, because it's hard to tell from this since the Claris is coming online.
And according to this memo, just for the public record, the Claris came on in 2023.
Oh, they did?
Ac- According to this memo.
Okay, so then maybe it
Then
did
it
come on.
doesn't
this year.
matter.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it came on last year, maybe
Yeah. Any other questions for
Hmm.
our Village Alliance? Looks like there's no more for you to do tonight.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
you.
evening. Thanks so much. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the Springfield Avenue Partnership.
Oh, nice,
thank you.
nice.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name's Jim Neary. I'm president of the Springfield Avenue Partnership, 28 Cromwell Parkway, New Jersey.
So Derek, could I get you to try, yeah, that
Better?
mic's terrible, so, yeah,
I'll just shout.
better.
All right, thank you for your attention and inviting us to this meeting. We're here to present our budget and our plans for 2025. Springfield Avenue Partnership at its heart represents a diverse mix of businesses that make up our district. We recognize the importance of supporting and celebrating these small businesses. The past year, SAM, as we're now known, invested in its businesses with both grants and cost-sharing programs. We awarded $5,000 in signage grants. We organized power washing for 10 businesses, negotiated a cut rate price for that. We repeat the program for the spring for additional businesses. 23 businesses took part in our annual Christmas garland, holiday garland, sorry, and which represented a cost sharing of $2,500. We recently welcomed 13 new businesses to Springfield Avenue. We celebrate 2 multi-generational businesses this year. Woolly Fuel, which celebrated a 100-year anniversary, has been continuously operating in Maplewood since 1924. And Willie, Norm Willie Sr. was a longtime member of the SAM board, and the organization is now run by his son, Norm Jr. Acme Rubber Stamps was awarded one of 500 nationwide small business enhancement grants from the American Express and Main Street America and Excellency in Manufacturing Award, the New Jersey Business Industry Association. The business has been at the same location on Burnett Avenue in Maplewood since 1973, having passed from father to daughter, Lori Bierman. Congratulations to both of these longtime businesses. Thank you to our board of trustees of Maplewood Township and our business owners, Maplewood Foundation, and all the volunteers and visitors who support Springfield Avenue. With that, I'd like to turn over to our executive director, Nicole Wallace, and then our treasurer will speak to the budget. Any questions for me?
No, not yet.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'll just give you some highlights of our initiatives. I had passed out our 2024 annual report. This will ultimately go up online and be delivered to all our businesses. So you guys are getting the first copies,
Wow.
fresh off the press.
So exciting.
Thanks, Nicole.
So some of our initiatives in 2024 were installing new benches. Just a few benches were put by Indiana, but going forward, we are going to work in tandem with DPW and their street reconstruction project this year and have all new benches replaced on Springfield Avenue. We worked with a graphic design firm to update our branding. We just started using the new, put the new banners up, starting to use the new newsletter. It's new but old, so we love our SAM logo. So it was just really pushing that SAM logo and doing new things with it. And we have a lot more banners to hang up. That was just sort of the ones that already had the hardware, and we have a ton more banners, so it's really going to take over the street. And we worked this year thinking about supporting our diverse businesses, whether it's celebrating them through advertising or we're applying for a grant from the Maplewood Foundation to translate documents into different languages, because that's something that comes up a lot, is a language barrier. And these are technical documents, so not so easy just to put into a Google Translate. In the report, you'll see our business openings. We had 13 new openings and celebrated them, and hopefully we'll have some more ribbon cuttings to do this quarter. And then we had some events and promotions. Some are ones that we've done previous years, like Mayfest. Our Summer Jazz Series is really going nicely, craft beer tasting. And some are new ones that we're adding to our schedule, like the SAM Business Meetup, which we're going to repeat this November, and the Holiday Shopping Passport, which was a fun new thing we did this year and would like to expand in 2025. So now I'll turn it over to Sheila to do the budget. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, we'll wait till the end.
Good evening.
Evening.
It seems like every time I come here, I have some type of cold. I'm going to talk about the budget. I'm just going to give you the highlights, but one of the most important things is that we were finally successful in, and we agreed to a 3% increase in the assessment. So hopefully that will go through and it's acceptable. We did have quite a bit of funds that we carried over from 2024 into 2025, but mostly it's committed funds in that the benches that we completed, as Nicole said, we did half of the benches. And so the funds are there sitting, and they were waiting for us to continue in 2025 to continue with the benches. So that's part of the dedicated funds. Entryways, we're going to improve the entryways coming into Maplewood. So that's another part of a large chunk of money that's carried over into 2025. Facade grants. That's another one of the special programs that we have for the businesses, and we carry over funds. Some of these funds that we're carrying over, by the way, are from grants. And I will say that Nicole has been very successful in getting grants approved for the Springfield Avenue Partnership. So therefore, that is a large percentage of the monies that are being carried over. utility boxes. We had a program and we asked for artists to be able to paint the boxes. And we came up with some successful artists that were selected. So that project is also going to continue into our 2025. Maplewood Foundation, and then there's a small amount of funds for that, and that pretty much is so that if we need to interpret documents that are in Spanish or Haitian, that we will be able to get help from the Maplewood Foundation in order to do that. The other highlight is the events. I think everyone already knows that the Mayfest is one of our successful programs that will continue into 2025. We're very happy with that. We're very proud of that. The craft beer was very successful this year. I think last year we decided to take out the wine portion, just do craft beer, and we're continuing with the craft beer. Also, holiday programs, the programs that we had this year, we're going to continue with testing that to see how well they do. And if they're successful, then we will continue them. If they're not, then we have decided that we will discontinue some of those programs for holiday. But of course, we'll still continue with the garland and the programs that we have. The gazebo, we'll still continue with those programs. Salary. As you know, Nicole's salary is a big portion of this budget. And it was approved that she would get a 2.5 increase. So we're continuing with that. I think I mentioned about the grants. We have been very successful with grants with the Main Street, NPP, and we're continuing, and hopefully we will continue to receive funds for grants. But we are cautious in that we really need to take a look and make sure that these are programs that we will continue with and we can continue bringing them over into subsequent years. Because if the grant money runs out, then we still have a juggling act to perform. Okay. Marketing committee. This year, at the end of last year, the marketing committee came up with a program to get together so that they could come up with some new strategies to make us more successful in some of the events and programs that we produce throughout the year. So we are waiting for them to come up with the final product, but we're hopeful that they're going to come up with something new, creative, entertaining, something that's different from what we have already done. I think we're kind of in a rut to some degree because we keep doing the same programs. I think those are most of the highlights. I think Nicole mentioned that the banners started to go up, and the feedback that I have received is awesome. Everyone loves them. They're beautiful. The artist did a great job. And we're at phase 1, as she mentioned, and we're going to go into phase 2 once we get the first phase. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
All right, so you might want to all stand up there so you can answer, because so we can answer, you don't bounce around. All stand together. Just, could I get some clarification on the advertising and marketing line item in expenses? Yeah, it was budgeted 20,000, then the actual was 21.
I agree.
Huh?
1 year.
A 1-year grant, okay. So the only the advertising and marketing that you do is through, is basically event specific? Mm-hmm.
You should talk in the
Yeah, you should go to the mic.
talk in the microphone because you probably have people on Zoom.
We budget the event advertising within the event.
Within the event, right, correct.
That's just, you know,
So extra,
monthly fee for general advertising.
okay. And do you have someone doing social media, or does that all fall on the director?
We're actually using funds this year and we have an RFP out to hire someone to do social media for this year and see how it goes.
Okay,
I think that part of that's coming from the marketing as well.
Yeah.
anyone have any questions?
Well, I just want to note, since Ms. Howlett's sitting in the room too, that I'm okay with the winter market going bye-bye. I think that the outdoor holiday markets were really needed during the time of COVID, but I think that both the producers, having been one, and the vendors, having been one, are tired of being outside and just want to be back inside. But I just want to acknowledge that that's not on this budget, and good times.
Thank you, I agree.
And so,
And the banners are amazing, 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 amazing.
so the accounts payable part, it has winter decorating, as does marketing and events. So is that double counted, or is that separate? Okay. Understood, but yeah, understood. I'm just asking because under marketing and events, you have winter decorating. Okay, got it. 5. Got it.
I have no idea why they don't need the money. Very last minute.
Does anyone have any questions besides mine? No. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you. Mayor, if I may, I dug a little deeper into some research here, and I may be able to answer the question earlier about the MVA.
Okay.
So as we noted before many times, that the Maplewood Village Special Improvement District total assessed value stayed pretty flat between 2017 and 2022. But then we saw an increase in 2023 when the Claris came in, and into 2024, an increase of $15,000. That's $15,000. $15,000. I'm not sure if the entirety of that is due to the Claris. The memo merely says that a great, quote, unquote, chunk of that was due to the Claris. So we still need the exact number, but that gives us a little more information.
When do we start? I remember us telling both SIDs to do a regular increase in the assessment. Do you remember what year that was?
I think it was the first year you were on.
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
But it stayed flat, you just said?
It stayed pretty flat, right? Because we agreed to, it went a little bit up because we agreed to a 5-year progressive plan at an increase of 3.5%, as committee member DeLuca noted. But then COVID happened.
Yeah, right. Okay, I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Forgot. Blanked it out. Okay, so we'll move on to the Community Coalition on Race. We got everybody here for that? Hello, Ms. Gagnier. I think you're up there.
Hello, thank you so much. We forgot our order already.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Gagne, Executive Director of the Community Coalition on Race, and I have with me
Anita Gandana, Board Chair of the Community Coalition on Race.
Thank you for the budget hearing tonight. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the sudden passing of our friend and colleague, Carol Barry Austin. I'm sure all of you know we're deeply grieving her loss, and we invite the public to check out our tribute to her on our website. And we just want to say a few words. I've known Carol since my days on the school board. Over 20 years ago, I witnessed back then and regularly over these last 2 decades her special talent for building relationships, bringing people from all perspectives together to learn why integration and racial equity in schools and classrooms are critical to the success of a diverse community. And success means stable integration where all residents are valued, have a voice, and share in all community opportunities. Carol never stepped back from this goal, and no matter who was in charge and what groups were or might be working to preserve their privileges over people of color. And we are sticking with that. And so tonight we're here to make our presentation about what we've been up to for the last year and what we have planned for 2025.
We'll be doing a moment of silence tomorrow night.
Thank
on
you,
cue.
appreciate that.
In her room, yeah.
So thank you for allowing us to present today, and for all of Maplewood Town's support over for many years. Before we get started, I want to first reiterate our strong stand as an organization that stands against anti-Semitism. Our organization is grassroots, volunteer-driven, and representative of both Maplewood and South Orange's diverse populations. We are committed to our mission to help build and sustain a community that is racially, culturally, and socially integrated and truly inclusive, where there is equity and equality for all. A unique and special mission that holds such importance in our community, especially in times like now. This mission is not an easy one. It calls us to engage in difficult and challenging dialogue. There is no playbook for the integration and anti-racism work that we are doing, and we are always learning. But we aim to be transparent about what we are doing as an organization and with the broader community. And we pledge to constantly improve our practices in creating constructive, respectful spaces for dialogue. And if harm is done, we commit to engaging in restorative practice that centers our shared humanity and our shared struggles. Subsequent to our MLK observance and unfortunate incidences of anti-Semitism in our community, we have once again reached out to town leaders and local rabbis to learn how we might work together in solidarity to challenge the root causes of hate and bias. We have also been actively reaching out to community members who have reached out to us and shared their concerns. As I said, we are learners and commit to doing the difficult work to challenge racism, prejudice, and hate. And we welcome more discussions with you all as we engage in the work ahead. It's my pleasure to turn it back to Nancy to speak about our plans for 2025 and a recap of 2024. And thank you again for your time and your support.
Thanks so much, Anita. Okay. This is a picture of some of our board members, including Carol, and our new board. And we are grateful for all the years that Maplewood Township Committee member Vic DeLuca has been our liaison. The collaboration and oversight has been greatly appreciated. And we welcome Ms. Herman to our board as our new liaison, and we're looking forward. We already had our first meeting, and we're looking forward to ongoing work with you. We're introducing some new staff. You see here Megan Clement in the first picture. She joined us in April. We knew at the time that we would be seeing our dear, dear Audrey Rowe move on to bigger and better things, although she considers this one of the biggest and best things that she has done working for the coalition. And we were grateful to have time for Megan to spend time with Audrey. Since Audrey has left, we also hired Amanda Gutierrez, who's a Maplewood resident, as a second program coordinator. And we're just so excited to be working with these two new people. In 2024, you can see some pictures here of our Dr. King observance, our luminary project, some of our integration through the arts projects, and our Soma Neighbors Connect, which is run by our residential committee that engaged leaders from both Maplewood and South Orange and neighborhood association leaders, all kinds of groups to get together and share information about what it means to be neighborly, to make connections, and as we're always trying to do, get people to make cross-racial connections. We did a lot of integrated art circles with our Essex County Local Arts Programming grant last year. You can see some of the work on this slide, including on Springfield Avenue, the covered planters, which we were really excited about, and the screening of Gabriel's Daughter by Maplewood, which starred and was produced by Maplewood resident Lori Brown Mirabal. We did that on Juneteenth. Our collaboration, some collage pictures there of our collaboration on Juneteenth celebration with Durand Hedenhouse in Maplewood. We also had, during Black History Month, Coming to Jersey, Black families share their stories. We're not repeating that this year, but we hope to again in the future. It was an amazing opportunity to hear from people what their journeys are and how they come to this community, why they choose this community. It's all about the diversity and commitment to racial equity. We also continued our work, as we always do, on anti-racism advocacy and social justice, or racial justice, with school integration and advocacy efforts, meetings with realtors to give them the best information about how they can support their clients, but also be direct and honest about what's happening in the school district and in the towns. Our BOE Candidates Forum, our Deconstructing Racism workshop series, that's a really great learning opportunity. We're doing that again in collaboration with the Soma Adult School. Our Wealth Gap Equalizer Loan, this is a program that came out of our demographic studies to help us increase the pipeline of Black in-movers and to address ongoing racial inequities in home ownership opportunities in our county, in our state, in our nation. It's one small way that we are working on this. And right as of now, we've made about 6 loans. I think the 7th is in progress. We continue to do Talking to Children About Race. That's a schools committee program. We received a grant from the Maplewood Foundation to support our anti-racism training. And last year we did multiple sessions with the Maplewood Police Department and a session with the leaders at the Soma Adult School. We continue, again, to work on developing understanding, and we do that with conversations on race. The integrated art circles, we did a showcase at the end of the sessions because we had so many, and it was a great opportunity to bring people together. It's not just working on art projects, but these are kind of curated sessions where there is social interaction and learning about racial differences and commonalities and relationship building. And more of that happened at the showcase. We continued through the residential committee to promote integration at the local level. We're still putting the final touches on our latest demographics report, which is focused on housing and income and some of the struggles that we face here. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And our targeted and affirmative marketing. We market the towns. We have a separate website, choosesoma.com, to help maintain and increase the pipeline of in-movers of color and maintain and grow our diversity. This is how we support the work that we do, municipal support from both Maplewood and South Orange. Our Celebrating Integration fundraiser, we get private and corporate foundation support, the Maplewood Foundation, ECLAP, as I mentioned before. Our Luminary project is a community-based project, but also a fundraiser, and our appeal letters to individual donors throughout the towns. We do collaborations and are in the media beyond SOMA, which gives a good attention, positive attention to the community. We were highlighted in Authority Magazine. I am working with a statewide effort called Great Homes and Neighborhoods for All in the state of New Jersey. Through that, I'm working with some of the individual groups, including New Jersey Future, and some leaders at Rutgers, where I will be helping to teach a class on why we do what we do to graduate students. So we're always trying to get the word out and engage more people. I also working with a graduate student on barriers to homeownership and what our towns are facing, and sharing the very positive information about these towns' commitments to affordable housing. And lastly, we are collaborating on a seed grant with Dr. Diane Hughes who's a professor at New York University. And then in 2025, we have a lot. I'm not going to read everything. We have a lot of the same programs coming up. We've reduced the amount of art circles this year. They'll be longer, and hopefully some of them will be have a broader appeal. We really hope that people will come out for the line dancing, learning about opera, and the murals, creating the murals for public installation, and of course our Juneteenth celebration in collaboration with Durand Hedden House. And we will continue to engage the community in learning and building relationships with all of the things that you see here tonight: our preschool open house, regional collaborations on integration and equity issues, our anti-bias and anti-racism trainings for local organizations, and we encourage all groups to reach out to us so that we can design a tailored training for any of them. And our affirmative marking and our loan, we're really looking to increase the loan size and collaborate with regional lenders to grow the loan amount. And that is our budget, our projected expense, projected income, and our request from Maplewood, which has been stable over the last probably 15 years at $35,000. And we want to thank you again for your support, collaboration, and this opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the board want to say anything, or are you good? Nope. It's okay. You don't have to, trust me. Does any of my colleagues have questions or comments on the CCR budget? Go ahead, Mr. Day.
I have perhaps a suggestion, and for your consideration, so we don't have to engage in a dialogue about it or put you on the spot about your decision regarding it. But because the coalition has now perfected the Deconstructing Racism series and perfected conversations on race, and you have a brand and credibility in bringing the community out, I wonder if you would consider partnering with other local or regional recognized relevant partners in doing a deconstructing anti-Semitism in conversations on anti-Semitism. I think that could be really, really helpful in this particular moment in time, and possibly even heal and bring us together. Just for your consideration.
We are in conversation with that, about exactly that.
Terrific.
Board and with the local synagogues and leaders.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that, because you said that very eloquently, Mr. Daffis. Because I've taken your Deconstructing Racism trainings through a different nonprofit organization, and I found them really amazing. And I've been wondering how come we're not doing more of those in other hate areas, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism in general. And so I'm happy to hear that it's being discussed. And thank you, Mr. Daffis, for eloquently stating that.
Thank you.
I was going to ask something around the same, so Thank you for bringing that up. I'm delighted to hear that you're thinking about it. I think that would be very well received. I wanted to ask about the anti-bias and anti-racism training, if anti-Semitism is included in that.
Yes, we have, it depends on what group we're in front of. Sometimes they're very tailored to what the group needs, but we have some of the things that we distribute. We have a piece called Language Matters, where we have samples of things that some people don't recognize their own anti-Semitic remarks, their anti-LGBTQ remarks. They think that they're okay to say, or they just grew up that way and that's part of the language. So we do have handouts like that, and we do include those in the trainings.
That's wonderful.
Oh, that's great. I think
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. and
Thank you very much. And well done, Anita, your first one. Yay.
We're going to move on to Youthnet. We're not funding you this year. We just gave you that honor at the reorg meeting, so kidding. Hi, Diane. You want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. I'm Diane Malloy, the Executive Director of Youthnet. Fortunately, Camilla Tideman finished my board chair. Couldn't be here tonight. She's not well.
That's okay.
We love
Um,
having you, Diane.
Might want to pull the mic down a little toward you. Yeah.
It's broken up.
So I think everyone here knows what Youthnet is about. Youthnet builds a community where young people in Maplewood and South Orange develop a strong sense of belonging, find inspiration, fulfill their potential, and achieve success. So tall order, but we're here tonight to tell you what we have been doing and what we plan to do in 2025.
Next slide.
So, yes, so for 15 years, we have run after-school programming at both middle schools, as well as at Columbia High School. And in 2024, we supported 126 clubs that engaged over 1,000 students. Next slide, please. So here's a list of our board members. They're all wonderful, and this year I'd like to welcome Deb Engel to our board as a representative. We've had our first meeting and it was great. And we have two other board members, Kimberly Rainsey and Thayer Joshua, who we are looking forward to working with. And we're continually trying to build our board. Slide 4, please. So here's a smattering of some of our clubs. So Youthnet students engage in all different kinds of clubs, the Spectrum Club, the environment, Asian culture, what makes science cool. Our students are published authors, entrepreneurs, video game doers and creators, history sleuths, podcasters, and pickleball players. And maybe best of all, this is a time when they are engaged with friends and not at home alone or glued to their devices. Often our clubs have been oversubscribed in the last year, and we've had to add additional sections. Next slide, please. A few of the things that make Youthnet unique are that the kids have access to clubs like the Spectrum Club and Real Talk and Club Entrepreneur and the Empowerment Club. And this year, we started a robotics club in partnership with the Board of Education. They came to us and said, we really want to do a robotics club, but we can't implement it. We don't know how to go about doing that. So Youthnet said, well, we can help you do that, but it's really expensive to buy all those robotics kits. So they said, we'll buy the kits, you do the instruction and the implementation. So this winter, we have 8 students at each middle school involved in robotics. So we're kicking it off. We're hoping to grow, and we are very happy about our partnership with the Board of Ed. Next slide, please. Next one. Okay, here we go. So Youthnet has a summer internship program that we will be accepting applications for. Maplewood was wonderful. We had someone at the clerk's office, someone in finance, someone in health, someone with the police department. They all had an amazing experience, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am that the kids have this opportunity, and I think they were very, very happy with the last placements. Now, we're continually trying to raise money for them, to give them a little stipend. It's not been easy to do that. Most people don't want to pay the kids, but we're hoping to figure out a way to do that. Before we place them in these placements, we run workshops for them, 2 workshops, one for resume building and one where we do role-playing to educate the kids to different situations they might encounter when working with the public. And we also had some placements in town in retail and at Brave Floral, and quite a few in South Orange as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so in addition to that, we also work collaboratively with the South Orange and Maplewood Police Department in the open gym sessions. And what Youthnet does here is provide programming before the game begins. So we had a very successful time with the South Orange Rescue Squad where the kids got to learn CPR and actually practice it. And the Municipal Alliance came and talked about substance abuse, which was also a very informative session. And that's all before, the games start. And we're trying to build on that a little bit and also work on creating some activity for the young women at the school too, because they're not playing basketball. Next slide, please. Okay, so our mental health initiative. So this is, where we are beginning to train people at the schools. Right now, we're in discussions with both middle schools to find facilitators to run the mental health initiative, which will actually begin in September. So the training will take place in the spring, and then we'll roll it out in September. So a little bit about what Preventure is. It's a program for youth age 11 to 18 that uses personality-focused interventions to promote mental health and reduce risky behavior. Our workshops will be in segments, and they'll be designed to help students learn useful coping skills, set long-term goals, and channel their personality traits towards achieving them so they can thrive in all areas of their lives. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is our funding income. And as you can see, 50% comes from contributions to Youthnet and 27% from grants and fundraising activities. So 78% of our income comes from fundraising and contributions raised. Next slide, please. Our expenses, 78.5% of our expenses go directly toward programming in the form of teacher stipends, coordination, and supplies for programs. Our operational costs, which are accounting, website maintenance, general communication, is comparatively small at 18%. Next slide. So we were able to receive some grants this year, which go directly toward, as our budget reflects, the rolling out of our mental health initiative. So from the South Orange Y, from New Jersey Water, and from the Maplewood Foundation, our objectives met the grantors' objectives, and we were lucky enough to be awarded funding. So these funds, as the budget does say, will be used for training materials, to train the facilitators, pay them while they're being trained, and then pay for the implementation throughout the club structure in the fall. We anticipate that all these funds will be used, and we will continue to raise money throughout the year to support this. Next slide, please. So our fundraising efforts this year include a general letter that was sent out, followed up by 5 solicitations throughout the funding cycle, where we had a 50% open rate. The open rate was great, but not everybody contributed. So anyway, we're going to work on that. Next slide, please. Oh. This is a sampling of what the fundraising touches looks like. Okay, here we go. Nope, no. One more before that. Okay, that's good. So now in our 16th year, we look forward to growing the organization with new options for our teens and ways to keep them engaged as healthy and informed, caring citizens in our community and the community at large. Now the last one. That's okay. That's all right. So thank you. Thank you for your continued support. And as you can see, our request is the same as last year. And we're so thankful for your. So if there's any questions.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
We love Youthnet. I'm just going to say my kids have had such an impact, and I love the Preventure program. And what I love most about it is that you're integrating it within the clubs that are already happening. So it's not like you have to sign up for something new or opt in. It's going to be mental health initiatives that are in programming that the kids are already going to. And I think that's what's so amazing about it. So I'm glad you're able to get funding because I was sad last year when we couldn't increase your contribution. So I'm happy that you were able to find funding to implement it.
We're doing it. It's happening. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's great.
thrilled that it can happen. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I was just wondering if, if the, so you serve about 1,000 students at, for each of the sessions at each school or?
No, that's total.
Okay,
Yeah.
so about 1,000 per year, all total.
Yes.
And is that like an increase in other years or a decrease or how does that?
Consistent. We have a very big enrollment in the fall, and the winter's a little lighter, and then another big enrollment in the spring. And we started out in the very beginning with 4 clubs. So, it's constantly gone up. Now we have 126 clubs a year. So, it's pretty consistent. Pretty
Okay.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I see that the club like offerings change every year. So you see like which ones are really popular,
Yes.
which ones not so much.
We've had a few that are like Stay Late and Create has been with us from the very beginning, from day one. Mr. Palmergren's club has been with us from day one, but pretty much changes. And some might come in the winter and then come back again the following fall, skip the spring session. So kids have options. They have choice. If they can't, be there on that particular day in one, in the fall, maybe they can pick it up in the spring.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Same.
Okay. Historic Preservation Commission, Mr. Wright. Hello.
Hi.
You want
Good
money
evening.
this year?
I'm Daniel Wright, Chair of the Maplewood Historic Preservation Commission. I'm here tonight to make the HPC's annual budget request and also to request a resolution to approve a grant proposal, which is due at the end of this month. So the commission's primary purpose is to identify historic sites and districts within the boundaries of the township, recommend their designation. The HPC is a zoning body like the planning and zoning boards that can be used as a development tool for the township. We are unique from the planning and zoning boards as our purview relates to design and material review. Over the last 20 years, the commission has proposed 12 local designations, all approved by the Township Committee. Currently, there are 8 designated private homes and 4 designated municipal properties. In 2025, the commission wants to return focus to this critical work of local designations. We have been busy on other projects over the last few years. I know people have been asking, why haven't you been doing more local designations? Well, we did get the village listed on the state and national historic registers, which opens the door for private property owners to get historic tax credits for work on commercial buildings, which is very timely right now. We also worked on the preservation plan for the woodland, which now puts the township in a position to apply for historic trust grants for capital improvements. We've been very busy this year implementing the demolition ordinance, which was an offshoot of the new master plan. And we are beginning work now on updating the preservation element of the master plan. And many of these projects were funded by CLG grants, which I'll cover in the second part of the presentation. So here's our initial budget request. Some of the new items, we've traditionally had, I think, a small budget of $3,000. You'll see this is significantly higher. One item is for a paid secretary to assemble our agendas, minutes, and board packets. Unlike the planning and zoning boards, the HPC has always done its own minutes, which limits the participation of one of our members in every meeting. We have a small budget that we use for materials like our website, historicmaplewood.com, which is an important tool for sharing our materials, as well as to provide home maintenance and research tips for residents. It was built in-house for free by a commissioned volunteer and just requires ongoing hosting costs. Another section is for training. So to maintain our certified local government status, which has enabled the township to receive these CLG grants over the last several years, commissioners are expected to participate in ongoing trainings. And we actually have organized an HPC 101 training. We have a lot of new commissioners this year, thanks to our liaison. It's going to be conducted this Saturday morning by the State Historic Preservation Office. You are all invited to attend as well. Trying to get the details. We'd like to extend the invite to some township employees as well. And it should be recorded if people can't join on Saturday from 9 to 12. So now our big ask is that second line item for a part-time consultant. So there are two big factors driving this increase. One is the demolition ordinance and the demolition reviews, which we've been doing this year, passed in 2024. So far we've done 4 demolition reviews. All of the research was done in-house by commissioners. We've been spending 40 plus hours on each individual one, which is not sustainable for a volunteer commission. It takes us away from other work, working on designations. So we need access to professional resources like our colleagues on the planning and zoning boards and the HBCs in neighboring towns to assist us with this regulatory function. Other HBCs who have implemented similar ordinances rely on historic preservation consultants, legal counsel, or their own planning departments, their own township planning departments to assist them. But we don't have any of these resources to draw upon currently. The second big item related to the consulting request, our big goal for this year is to get back to local designations. We think that local historic districts are a zoning tool the township could utilize to maintain the sense of cohesive neighborhoods which exist in Maplewood, and which is under threat by demolitions, followed by out-of-context development, which has been a concern to many residents. The commission seeks a professional consultant to guide us through what would be our first local historic district designation. We need someone who can help educate the public, educate the township committee, educate the HPC on the benefits of district designation, as well as the processes that we'll need to have in place to be successful in implementation. So when we started putting this proposal together, we were thinking mostly about what we needed to support the demolition reviews, but it's become more clear to us that the districting is perhaps the better tool to help maintain the character of our neighborhoods. This map, oh, can you advance to the next?
One more.
One more.
One more.
So this map, by the way, contains previously surveyed areas which paid professionals have recommended could be pursued as historic districts. So we have a good amount of coverage in town. And Nancy, you may notice that College Hill is not on that map. The reason that it wasn't in there is that the consultants said that College Hill wouldn't make sense as its own historic district, but would make sense as a larger historic district containing other neighborhoods that were developed between that period of 1890 and 1935. So there is potential for College Hill, but within including surrounding neighborhoods as well. So we'd like to work with the TC over the next month to refine the overall budget proposal. One thing that we learned is that some HPCs don't have professional consultants over as their own budget line item, but share a pooled resource of a contract that an historic architecture firm would have with the township. So if the township had, say, a contract with one of these firms that could also do designation work, that would be another way to build it into the overall township budget, but not specifically the HPC's budget. So we'd like to work on this with you to refine it over the coming weeks. And then the last slide is about the grant application. So over the last few years, HPC has helped secure $85,000 in grant funds from the National Park Service's Certified Local Government Program, which is administered by the State Historic Preservation Office. So the next grant we'd like to seek is to do an architectural survey of the Roosevelt Park neighborhood, an architectural survey would detail the architectural qualities of every home in that survey area and provide guidance on historic designation eligibility to further the HPC's mission. So the grant application is due February 28th, and we would need a resolution passed by the Township Committee in order to submit that application, as well as a letter of support from the mayor, which we can draft and present to you. And there are a few administrative steps that we need help with from township staff.
Okay. Do you have a sample resolution or a resolution already? Or do we have an old? We probably have an old one. Yeah. Ms.
Yeah,
Fritzen?
I think I have a copy of the one from last year. And
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ms. Fritzen, you could probably dig that up, our resolution for their CLG grant last year. And then we'll put one on, probably too late for tomorrow, or is it otherwise the second meeting in February? We
Can I
can.
ask a question about it? Just because, I mean, I've heard from people who live in designated houses. So I know that if your house is designated, it could create a lot of obstacles and hurdles. So I look at that and looking at us talking about designating certain neighborhoods as historic districts. And I just get a little worried, not worried, but like, have we talked to any of the homeowners who live in Roosevelt Park? Has there been community outreach? I've never seen that map that you just showed about different areas of town. So I see how expensive the woodland gets now that it's historic. So I get a little nervous when we start talking about designating a big chunk of Maplewood as historic.
Can you just explain the difference between designating a specific house and designating a district?
it's a little bit different when you designate a specific house. There's a lot more research that goes into that one individual house, and the standards for evaluating an application would be more strict. With one of the advantages of districts is it doesn't stop development. It doesn't stop new construction. But it provides a process to make sure that what gets built in that district conforms to the overall design patterns in the neighborhood to prevent things that are just totally out of context from getting built. In terms of our designated homes, I've been on the commission for 10 years. In my understanding, the history of all of the applications that have come through with those designated homes, none of them have been denied by the commission. In fact, the owner of Vauxhall, we helped him save about $50,000 on his window project. He was going to go the route of replacing all of the windows on that house. And you suggested that he look into, refurbishing the windows that he had. And the price that he got for that was $50,000 less. He's been happy with the results. So we really work with the homeowners to try to help them be successful with their projects. And I would say that we, in some ways add value to, the homeowners' investment by, by helping them get good work done.
So in Roosevelt Park, if it was designated a historic district, you're talking about new development, creating guidelines for the new stuff that goes up. So what happens to existing homes and improvement? And is there
Yes.
more regulation and obstacles?
So as we get into historic districting, a big part of it would be putting together design guidelines to help steer homeowners to ways to approach projects. So Glen Ridge, for example, almost the whole town is designated as part of historic. So they have an excellent website that gives homeowners kind of a first set of information. You're replacing your slate roof. These are the options that typically get approved for that type of project. You're replacing windows. Look into these options which have been approved in the past. So that would be part of it, to prepare guidelines to help homeowners be successful in their applications to the commission. There's been a lot of changes. They sort of all derive from the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation and rehabilitation. And there's been a lot of evolution of those standards just within the past couple of years in terms of allowing use of substitute materials and things like that to address the real limitations and availability. Some of these historic materials just aren't available anymore because we've chopped down so many of the old growth trees. You can't get the materials that were used to build these houses back in the 20s.
So
could-
sorry, go
Go
ahead. I was just gonna, so like, Roosevelt, do the people in Roosevelt Park know?
So maybe, can I just, let's go through what the application, so this application is to do a survey.
Yes.
So the survey is just to do an analysis of the houses there, the number of houses, the years that they were built, things like that?
Yeah, the years that they were built, description of the architecture, and an evaluation for historic designation eligibility.
And then if that survey comes back, then when that survey comes back, the HPC will then have a discussion and decide if they want to offer it up for nomination as a district. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be an option.
Right.
Based on that report.
Or not, or not.
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
So, and then if the HPC does decide to go for a nomination, there's a whole prescribed process. They have to notify every homeowner. They have to come up with a proposal why. They have to have public hearings. And then after that process, there's actually a vote by the HPC, which is a recommendation to the Township Committee. The Township Committee then has to have public hearings and have a final vote as to whether or not to accept the recommendation to declare it a district or not. So through the whole process, not for the study, because the study is just to look at historical documents, right? It doesn't knock on anybody's doors or anything like that.
Takes photos.
Yeah, but, okay. So there's no interaction with the neighborhood at that point. It's just a survey of what it is. Then it becomes public. Then the HPC has a very public process at public meetings as to whether or not it wants to consider the designation or not. If it does, then it kicks off all the notification, all the meetings, and a lot of back and forth between HPC and the homeowners, correct?
Yep.
It just sounds weird to me if we're going to be studying a neighborhood and not letting the neighborhood know we're studying it in advance. I don't know, maybe it's just.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did believe they have a neighborhood association. When we did the College Hill survey, we did do a presentation at Prospect Church for the neighborhood association, and people were interested. After we did the Gulf Island survey, I walked door to door and gave every resident a copy of their pages from the survey, and people were so excited and thrilled to receive them and to get more information on their house.
Yeah.
The surveys, I mean, there's no, it's just information about the homes. So actually moving into the historic districts is a whole separate process.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the surveys could be really informative to homeowners, the
Mhm.
architectural survey and historic survey. But if we approve the budget, which includes the request for a consultant to start looking into historic district designation, I do think that we should do some press about it and go out and talk about our doing that. Because if the HPC, in all fairness, is going to be engaging a consultant in this historic district designation possibility, clearly they're leaning into that. And it's not like, oh yeah, no, we're going to spend this money and then decide not to do it, right? So I do think that we should, like with everything that we vote upon here, from here, we should inform the public about.
Well, I think the biggest thing for the consultant is to take the burden off of the volunteer members of the commission on all these demolition reports that we instituted in our ordinance. That's at least half the job for this consultant,
Yeah.
if not more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm in favor of it because we passed the ordinance. A lot of the reason for the demolition ordinance is exactly what we're trying to keep from happening. And that is what we're seeing with demolition houses, subdividing lots. There's 2 lots potentially historic on Ridgewood Road alone. One that's like 3 lots can be subdivided to 3. And what gets put up in certain places. And we see what's gotten put up. We all know the houses that everybody's upset about.
Mayor, may I just remind us that the demolition ordinance
No, I
is not for
know.
land use. It is to give.
I'm
the
talking
HPC
more
But,
about the
okay.
purpose behind the districts and researching everything and trying to retain the contextual design of homes in these areas. So if you do a district as opposed to a house, it gives anybody in that area, and you have design guidelines, you might not get something built that is completely out of scale and out of context with their neighbors. So
Yes, but again, the community should know about that and be engaged in that decision making.
Yeah, because it's their house. They put the money into it and they're paying the taxes on it. So I just feel like
Yeah.
it's an overreach for the town to be like, we want to look at your district now and designate it as historic without, I hear what you're saying, that in the process, there's going to be community involvement. I guess I'm just wondering, like, maybe I just feel community involvement should start a little earlier. Like, are people actually interested? And I know this is just a grant to cover the expense, whatnot, but if people are going to be outside your house taking a photo, not everybody's necessarily comfortable. And if you see somebody with a camera, I don't know. I just feel like it just
you
makes
could
me
just
a little
drive
bit.
around like a
Yeah,
Google.
I've only spoken with a few residents of that neighborhood, so it's not, obviously not like,
Scientific survey.
for the survey. But a lot of their reactions were like, you haven't already done this? Like, why haven't you, done this work and are moving forward to, designate this district? Again, that's just a few people, but I think especially residents from Ridgewood Road, we've heard a lot from them about the demolitions that have been occurring in their neighborhood. So I think there's interest from residents. And as we begin working on our preservation element this year, We're just about to kick that off in the next week or two. There'll be a series of, or at least one kind of workshop format meeting with residents. Hopefully, hopefully we'll get some turnout. But we would very much like to engage with the public and keep them informed about what, you know.
So can, Mr. Ware, can our public information officer send this information out so that the community can know about these things that are open? I don't know.
Okay, I think it's premature. We haven't even gotten to the point of funding the consultant.
He's talking about a workshop that they're going to be doing.
Oh, for that.
Hoping
I
that
thought
there's
you meant for the other
attendance.
thing.
So I'm just trying to boost attendance at a workshop so that
Oh,
you can
to-
meet more,
to
right?
Yeah,
Promote it. Yeah.
that'd be great. I didn't, I
I just feel like
misunderstood.
educating people about the benefits of why historic designation is important, because so that their whiskers don't pop up too, because I just hear about the cumbersomeness it is for a homeowner when they're in a historic area or in a historic house or the woodlands, how hard it is to make improvements. And we know infrastructure is different now than it was. And when you want to upgrade your home, sometimes some of these historic designations might create financial or other barriers.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure.
Heard it. I want to stop this right now unless there's any other questions for Ms.
I just had one quick question.
Mhm.
I see that we have 12 houses that are designated, but do we have any historic districts in the?
No,
We have no.
Only,
No,
just the village.
only
Why?
8.
The-
Eight
Eight
homes.
houses.
This building, the park.
but like the districts that you're describing,
No.
No.
you don't have
Just
that.
the-
That's
no,
what I
no, we
thought.
don't
Thank
have
you.
that.
Isn't the village the
Village
designated?
is a
The
historic-
village is a
It's not
designated district.
residential.
It's not a local designation, so the HPC doesn't have any regulatory role in the village.
Right.
Just to be clear, because we're talking a couple different things here. You're looking for the proposal of the budget, the 19,000. HPC already has 5 districts that they've identified, correct, that have had surveys done in the past.
Yes.
And the HPC is going to be discussing whether or not to recommend any of those 5 for the historic designation process, correct?
Yes.
So if we allocate some of this 19,000, some of that money will be to actually start the process of considering a nomination, which would require kicking off all kinds of meetings and public relations and all that for the 1 or more districts that HPC is going to recommend, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the 19,000. The other thing, the 38,000, is just to do an additional survey to the 6 you've already done. Is that correct?
Of Roosevelt
And that
Park.
would be for Roosevelt.
Right.
But that doesn't kick off any nomination. That would be down the road if in fact HPC wanted to do that. So there's 2 different requests.
Request.
We got it. Yeah, we got it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But I don't know, I mean, one of the things is I'm in favor of going for the grant. So we should just see if we're in favor of going for it. Otherwise, we should let them know because there's no point in writing the grant if we're not in favor of going.
The architectural survey of Roosevelt Park?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm in favor.
I'm in
In favor
favor
of
of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just an architectural survey. Yeah.
So we just need to get that resolution on one of the next 2 agendas.
The second in
Yeah, I know.
February.
I already have Liz to have it ready. Okay, we're gonna move on to police.
A big change from historic preservation to public safety. Welcome, Chief.
Welcome, Chief. You ready? All right. Thanks for coming out. And I'm just going to hand it over to you to present us your budget. You can go briefly over 2024 if you'd like. You don't have to. And you can go over what your goals are for 2025. And then we'll go through the lines. Is the mic on, Pat?
All right. In keeping with the mission statement and core values of the Maplewood Township Police Department, we must be in partnership with the community. The Maplewood Police Department will continue to prevent, identify, and suppress criminal activity, ensuring the rights of all citizens are recognized, respected, and preserved. In 2024, the extraordinary officers, dispatchers, and civilian staff contributed to significant crimes trending down from each year, as discussed in public safety meetings each month. Maplewood has seen the following: 40% decrease in robberies, 33.3% decrease in aggravated assaults, and 8.62% decrease in auto theft. We have seen an increase in burglaries and theft crimes and with this budget, we hope to reduce those with proactive policing and investigations. The number one complaint we receive by police from the public is traffic. The complaints come from residents regarding speeding, pedestrian safety, and careless driving. Last year, we issued 2,442 moving violations and 1,122 warnings. The goal, the police department will continue to address these problems with education and enforcement. I can continue, but so that's pretty much what our goal is for 2025 moving forward. Our budget is our operational costs to reach these goals.
Is there any goal of increasing traffic enforcement and speeding?
Yes. So I don't know if we're discussing capital budget today, but
No, I just mean in overall goals, because as you know,
oh, definitely. That's why I highlighted
need to go into it, do I?
the traffic. That's our number one complaint that we receive, and we hope that the reassignment of our traffic unit and our officers will assist us in reaching that goal.
So the numbers that you have here for traffic, is that generally up from
No,
before?
it's the same.
Same.
So we definitely want to increase that. Those issue those,
Is there, I mean, how do we know that we're doing the right amount of vehicle summonses and warnings? Like, is there a percentage per like population or for the amount of traffic we get on our roads that we'll know like, okay, I mean, because we want to deter this behavior, but how do we know if it's actually deterring it?
Definitely. So what we do is most of our we receive complaints from the public. Also, we have historically complaint areas where we highlight. So like Parker Avenue is definitely a street that nobody has to call us that that's a complaint street. So we do our details on those streets, and that we have historically had problems at, or the four-way stop signs on Rutgers and Newark. So we increased our details there, and from what we did before. So so that's where we gauge our traffic at.
So Chief, based on your increased details in traffic and moving violations, the 2,442 summonses, you're saying it's still flat in comparison to previous years, or it's gone up a little bit?
It has not gone up. So we want to increase that.
And what is your aspiration?
Well, my aspiration is that so we were successful in changing our schedule where we have more officers on the road, and hopefully we will do more details in those areas and increase our productivity. So
10%, 15, 20, 30, what is your goal?
I'm going for 10%.
10%. And what's that based on?
What is it based on? Is based on what we have done in the previous years, but it's based on us having more officers on the road at different times. So our old schedule, we were constantly at minimums, and we had to respond to calls and not have enough for this type of enforcement. But with this new schedule, I hope to have more increase in these type of details.
Thank you.
Chief,
Go.
could you talk in general terms about the change in staffing and how that is enhancing police coverage?
Yes, so our old schedule, we were working a 4 and 3, 10-hour schedule. We have shifted to a 12-hour schedule, which is 4 and 4, so we have 2 squads. So when one squad is working 4 days, the other squad is off 4 days. This makes the schedule or the weeks even. So the same amount of officers we have on a Monday or the same amount of officers we have on a Saturday. Our last schedule was not like that. We will be stacked more on a Wednesday and thin on Saturday and Sundays on the weekends when we needed that additional support. The schedule, we have the even amount on every day of the schedule. And, Maplewood is very active over the weekend, on the weekends with different activities, and the extra covers assist us with covering those.
And is there any budget impact to that? I mean,
Yes, so it will decrease over time with this schedule because we have the coverage. So I'm not going to get into what our mandatory officers are,
right.
but we are above that every day with this schedule. So with that, it will reduce over time because we have equal coverage on every day of the week.
Chief, later we're going to be talking to the health department. Do you want to give us any opinion as to how it's working with the crisis intervention
Yes,
staff?
it's working great. So the philosophy of the police department is that we respond to a lot of these emotionally disturbed person calls. We are equipped to deal with it. However, we would rather call professional or the specialist in that, and our officers call that, they call them out immediately when we need them. It has assisted us. Our use of force has gone down. And it goes to our training as well, but also with having the added social worker on the scene with us, we're able to de-escalate even further than we in the patience of getting that person the proper help. So it has helped us a lot. Also, we have unhoused persons in town. When we have a code blue, we allow them to stay in our police headquarters because it's extremely cold outside. And with that, we're able to identify the unhoused persons and call the social worker over to assist us to get them the help they need.
I have a couple more.
Go ahead.
And Mr. Weir, this may be for you. I see that we don't have anything in the budget for purchase of vehicles. Is that, we're going to be doing that in the capital budget?
That's right.
And Chief, one other question here. We are doing, budgeting $50,000 for training. Part of the reason of the old schedule for the Power Wednesday was to do training on those days. So now that we're not having the Power Wednesday and we're doing the 2 blocks as you talk about, will we still continue to have an emphasis on training, which is a priority of the Township Committee?
Definitely. The amount we had, we spent more than our training that we had last year because we are finding training for officers to assist in what the goal is of the department. I have 2 traffic officers going to training for traffic statistics and gathering. They're going next month. So training that assists us in that goal of traffic, also assisting us continue training in de-escalation. Even though we're doing great in it, we want to stay active with that. Also, we have our mandatory training. We have our domestic violence training, our firearms training, and we still are the police. So we still have tactical training that we have to go to as far as school trainings and we code red and everything else. So we have the tactical training. We have our regular we have it's de-escalation training, but also we have diversity training and and everything else that comes up. So we also have a lot of protests in town, and our officers are training also how to deal with that in the First Amendment and other rights of people.
And you know, in 2017, we passed a welcoming resolution, which made it clear that on the municipal side, we weren't going to ask people about their immigration status or citizenship status. And I know you're following the Attorney General's directive. Could you just briefly say how are you informing new officers that may not have been around during the last go-around with this president, so that they're sensitive to these issues?
Right. So the Attorney General just resent what he did in 2017, 2018, and I think it was an update in 2019 as well. And they sent the AG directive for that. Also, they broke it down almost in a flyer version of what New Jersey police officers will not do, and that was sent out to all of our officers. Also, we have a training. It's called Power DMS, where officers have to go in, read and sign, and read what we sent out. So it was sent out to all the squads. Lieutenants went over it with all the officers, and they know that if we are not to assist, if that takes place, and it's you know, it hasn't changed since the last order from the Attorney General.
Yeah, we've talked about that
Right.
internally. The overtime for 2024 actual was quite a bit more than appropriated, but now we're budgeting for that much overtime. Did the 12-hour shifts not help address this?
Similar to the other departments, the salary and wage lines are the last ones that we fine tune, and so I would expect that would trend down some.
Okay, and then the need to update on all the allowances, same thing.
Yeah, and those are as a result of the recently settled contracts. So finance is updating all those numbers.
Anyone have any questions on any of the lines?
I have two items, Mayor. The first, if I can.
That's not who I was talking to. But go ahead.
The first one's small, but under community-oriented policing, we've increased the budget there. Previously, National Night Out, when they wanted to bring in entertainers or DJs or, you know, get money for inflatables, they were hitting up a lot of different areas in order to fund that. One of those was rec and PBA and some PD budget. And so this year we have added more money just to that line for
Which
the
line
National
is that?
Night Out. So that's on the first page. It's
227.
227, community-oriented policing, which is now 9,500.
At the bottom.
Up from
I see.
500, or from $5,000. So some of that's money that we won't spend in other departments, but some of it is additional funding we expect for National Night Out, as that's proved to be a successful event.
So are the other departments coming down that amount?
They probably won't go up as much.
I mean, just
And
saying.
then the second thing, under paramedic 911 dispatching, previous years we had budgeted $55,000 for it. That's now zero. That is an expense now paid for by SEFD. And you'll see that in a few other areas of tonight's presentations, especially finance, when we talk about pension payments, where we are shifting money from some of these operating lines, but you'll see it in an increase to the SEFD budget.
And we pay half of that 55, right? Because South Orange pays half.
Now it's in the
It's in
SEFD
the
budget, and so they pay that. But when it comes to how SEFD bills us, we would pay our percentage amount. Yep. It's an operating expense for them.
What is the police department chaplain program? You said that it's a goal, and I see that also in the community-oriented policing line.
So I got
Chaplain.
What is the police department chaplain
the
program?
chaplain program. Yeah, so the chaplain program, I just met with them last week. So we have a lot of new members that want to join. We just got to do a little background check and things like that. But what the chaplain program does is we have pretty much every denomination of or religion represented with Maplewood. And when we have a major incident, sometimes we have an on-call they're going to go through an orientation that I'm setting up for them. I have a chaplain in Bergen County that will teach it to them. And what happens is that if we have a major incident, we will call them out to the incident if a victim of a crime is requesting some type of chaplain. There's been times where we had a suicide or a suicide attempt, and the person asked for a Catholic priest, or so we would call them out to the scene, and we would be the liaison between that person and religious person. Also, they meet with our officers after a major incident. So after a major incident, we come in, we meet with the officers. It's not like when I was in patrol, we had a major incident. I was like, all right, good night, see you tomorrow. No, we bring everybody in and we talk about it, and then we bring in our chaplains to speak to them as well. The chaplains will give them their phone number and everything else, and sometimes they seek certain ones out and they'll speak to them. But before the major incident, what we try to do is we try to get the chaplains to meet the officers. Most of them know them from the past. We bring them into our lineup. We allow them in our building, and they can just come in and speak to the officers when they want to. And sometimes officers seek certain chaplains out, and they'll call them or just speak to them on the side once they're there. So we try to get that type of relationship before the major incident comes in. But yeah, so the orientation program will let the chaplains know what they can do on a major incident. We don't want them coming over to the caution tape or anything like that, but respect the scene and everything else, and then follow the lead of the supervisor who's requesting them. So that's the chaplain program.
Thank you.
It's been very successful.
Yes.
We've heard from officers through the years that it's helped them deal with emotional distress that they experienced in a particular incident, with grief, and it's also helped identify potential behaviors for treatment in certain situations.
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that I was really happy to see the trainings that you get and the emphasis that, in answer to Mr. DeLuca, that you're going to continue with that. And you mentioned in there autism training. And I know there's disability sensitivity training that includes that, also known as disability awareness and inclusivity training. And I just, wanted to emphasize the importance of that, especially, when dealing with residents in town.
And there's training for every level of officer too. There's from patrolmen, I get training, lieutenants, sergeants, all, up and down the spectrum.
Yeah, and I just want to plug that the Maplewood Community Board on Police has been very instrumental in connecting the department to a slew of trainings like that. Some of them were for free. Several of them were a lot cheaper. And to do so on site and in person. And that's been really helpful. And that is one of the missions of the Community Board on Police. They've been really successful in that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Do you have anything, Mr. Wary?
I don't, Mayor. Thank you.
Then we're done unless you'd like to stay longer.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone need a break before we move on, or can we plow?
Let's go.
What?
Go.
Keep going? All right, good.
Great
All right.
segue to health, right?
Yep.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening.
Great.
Come on up. Next.
We're giving away cash tonight. Next.
Got longer on the start. I was running ahead.
Well, these are
Guess they wanted a
interesting.
break.
These are interesting. Did they say they wanted a break?
Okay, I think they must have wanted a break. We thought we were plowing through, but I didn't look that him to be running anything?
You're good.
Yeah.
You're
That's
good.
all right. I said when he was walking out that we were starting, so we have a quorum. I don't like wasting time, especially in these things.
Let's go.
Good evening. And tell us your name, age, and, no, I'm okay. Guess not.
For the health department portion of the show.
Okay, make sure you speak loudly, please, because that mic's not that great.
Would you like me to go line by line or?
What happened?
Your presentation.
The presentation? Okay.
Want to go line by line?
Oh, no.
No, no.
Okay.
In a word, no.
Okay. So for our health department budget presentation, some of our successes are the following. We had a great grant success in partnership with this South Orange through our interlocal agreement. We saved the township a total of $234,193.55. Our next accomplishment was the launching of the Homeless Outreach and Engagement Program with CSP&J. The initiative has connected 80 individuals since we started in May. And this grant or this contract ends on April 30th of this year. And we hope to renew because they've been working out really great and linking people to resources and shelter. And it's been a very good program for us. As far as addressing mental health, we know that mental health is a growing public health concern. As you can see in our report, we want to expand our mental health resources with our crisis intervention social workers. This year, we had an increase of co-response calls. It's risen from 15% in 2022 to 40% in 2024, and our cases have increased over time since we started back in 2022 with 153 cases. Then it was 175 cases in 2023 and 181 cases in 2024. So kudos to Martha Eustache and Dina Purcell for working so hard for our crisis program. And lastly, women's health awareness. So in 2024, we hosted 2 impactful film screenings, one that focused on one stage of life, which is maternal mortality, especially among women of color, and the disparities that occur. And then the other was the health, social, and economic challenges for women facing during the phase of menopause. So we'd like to increase our support and awareness, community awareness for that with partnering with Not Your Mother's Menopause NJ and bringing it to other people who couldn't attend the symposium that took place in January. As for our goals for 2025, we have some big goals. As I mentioned, we want to increase the outreach to vulnerable and priority populations, which is always our main focus as public health. So we want to increase our communication means for the township. That means more translated materials and more physical signage, such as kiosks in specified areas. We look forward to drawing more people to the health fair with a bike rodeo in collaboration with the Maplewood Police Department and the Department of Community Services. And we also plan to increase our health screenings and vaccination clinics coordinated with our staff and community partners. We hope to provide another annual employee wellness day that we coordinated this year and was very successful and well received. We want to keep our employees healthy. And we hope to expand our awareness about maternal child health, in particular about the free universal nursing services. As I've mentioned before, there are free universal nursing services for families 2 weeks postpartum. They come to your home and they give you well baby and well parent visits to educate you and help you during that time. This is also an initiative of the governor's office, so we hope to bring that and raise awareness, especially in Maplewood and South Orange. For mental health and substance use prevention, we want to raise awareness about the 988 National Suicide and Crisis Hotline. We also want to work together with the police department to increase our locations and availability of the mobile drug disposal program. And for number 3, one of our goals is to ensure public health capacity. So one of the core functions of the health department, as you know, are disease surveillance, monitoring, inspections and investigations, and disease prevention. We want to expand some of the work that we've done. For example, our REHS, or Registered Environmental Health Specialist, of 1.5. We have a full-time person and a part-time person, and our administrative assistant have issued licenses for and inspected 130 businesses and addressed 344 public health complaints. Our great nursing staff, and kudos to Anna Markarova, who's our public health nursing supervisor, and our per diem nurse, Julia Markarova, ensured that 113 flu vaccines and 44 COVID vaccines were provided. 190 people received health screenings for diabetes, cholesterol, and hypertension. Some of those were our employees. And all schools and childcare centers were over 95% compliant with their immunizations. As we look forward to 2025, we are monitoring the situation with H5N1 and avian flu, as it has the potential to become an infectious disease that can spread among humans. And currently, it's in our wastewater and seen among wildlife. Lastly, as I mentioned, we want to strengthen the CISW and homeless outreach program, excuse me. And as I mentioned, CSP&J has helped over 80 individuals, but we know we can go further. So we want to, we are expanding weekend coverage with the crisis social workers at the PD. So we started this Sunday, and they were there from 12 to 4:30 and 4 to 8 overlapping, and they actually saw 3 co-responses yesterday just alone. So we think that that's a really good thing to do. And evening hours for CSP&J homeless outreach program. So about last month was when we started. We switched their hours on Tuesdays and Fridays to evening hours from 4 to 8 instead of 12 to 4, so that they would see more people. And that has been successful as well. And that's the end of my report.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues?
I did have a question. Yesterday, there was a homeless individual who went to the community center at D Hart. And I was contacted to ask about the procedure, and I told him to go to the police station. That's the correct answer, correct?
Yes.
And then the police station would be the ones to call.
CSP&J.
And then and as the chief said earlier, they would allow the person to stay in the courtroom to warm up and get some water and go to the bathrooms and all that. Okay.
Yes.
And I think you weren't here, but I did ask the chief if he wanted to weigh in on should we fund the social workers, and he thought they did a great job.
Great.
And that it was really a positive tool for the police, because even though they're trained in how to deal with these, emotionally disturbed or, tense situations, they really would rely or want to partner with the professionals. So he spoke highly of it.
That's great. And the crisis social workers, they do what the police can't, which is follow up with these individuals, making sure that they are getting medical treatment, or when they're discharged, they talk with the families and make sure that they don't experience those situations again.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that
Yes.
scenario that you just brought up, Committee Member DeLuca? So there was a houseless individual identified at the community center, and someone asked you, how do we connect that individual to help? And the answer is to call the police department, who will pick the houseless individual up, or what?
No, just our normal shelter procedure is you contact the police for a warming center, or the person was looking for a warming center.
Okay.
And I don't know how long the person was going to be at, the staff person was going to be at the community center. So typically when someone's looking for warming, we tell them to contact the police. The police put them up in the court. And then if they need further shelter, then they contact Department of Community Services to open up the community center. That's the procedure.
How do you get from Maplewood Community Center at Hart to the police? If they were there, I'm just asking, in that scenario, they're at the Maplewood Community Center at Hart to warm up, or saying you have
They
to go to
could
the
stay there,
police
but
office.
let's assume that the person, I don't know how long the staff person was going to stay there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of transportation, because that's a long walk from.
From the community center to the police station?
On a cold night, it could be.
It was daytime.
Right. But what if it was a cold night? How would they get there? They would be escorted by the police?
We pick up people. I don't know if we provide transportation.
CSP&J could if they were
CSP&J does.
on call, and if someone was there and they had difficulty, the PD could call CSP&J, and if they're available, they could come and bring them and transport them. They've offered that before.
Right. Again, I just think that as we look forward, we're talking about forward goals. When we have our OEM building back, we need to rethink this a little bit. It's just not the best practice for people experiencing crisis, which includes housing, insecurity, for them to seek shelter in the police department. No, nothing against our awesome police department who's welcoming, and we use that as a warming center. When you look at what other municipalities offer in terms of warming centers, their police department is not a typical one. So
Okay, so we don't get too waylaid from budget. I think you can maybe put the procedure in your presentation for the Board of Health meeting tomorrow night.
yeah.
Thanks. Any more questions on the budget? Looks like we have none. Can we, Mr. Wary or Ms. Davenport, explain a little bit with regard to the salaries and grant offsetting? It's kind of hard to understand on the line items. And I know we're not talking specific salaries, but.
And our CFO can explain better, but we are fortunate to be funded by a lot of grants. And thankfully, those grants will continue through the end of this year.
Okay.
And so they're charged to this line, and then usually we'll move money over to a grant focused line. So what you see here, because this department is so heavy on grants, won't entirely be accurate, but we do have an accounting of all the salaries and all the grant offsets that we can provide to you.
Yes.
Okay, so.
I would say, that's a long way of saying, I wouldn't even look at these numbers here, and I think the better thing to do is for us to provide to you all of the budgeted salaries.
What I was talking about this morning at the Health and Human
That's right,
Services.
yeah.
Okay.
What our budget does highlight is not only do we have grants, but through our cannabis community benefit funds and our opioid settlement funds, we are using those two pools of money to support the crisis intervention social worker program. And it's a great way to do it, a really unique program that hasn't been done for opioid settlement funding before in the state. So it's a good use of it.
Okay. No questions?
Nope.
Okay. You're free to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah. Just make one quick slide. I think you probably have it
It
all.
doesn't have to be tomorrow. You could do it.
We have a whole.
One, you did it last time.
Yeah.
We put it out there every time we.
And you had it on a slide in a previous, I think,
Yeah.
health
that's what I was
meeting recently,
saying.
maybe the January one.
Okay. Since our library has been here early, I love it. You want to come up? No? Are you sure?
Don't be shy. Come on up.
Come on up. Sarah wants you up here.
Oh, right.
Sarah didn't tell you, but you're going to be presenting the budget for the library. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming tonight.
So thank you for having us. I'm Sarah Lester. I'm the director of the library, and this is Amanda Eigen, the assistant director. The Maplewood Library's mission is to connect people to information, ideas, culture, and each other. We are open for all. That's in our tagline. We take it seriously. We do it every day, and it's a value that we hold dear to all of us. In 2024, I think our biggest accomplishment was seeing our building go up on Baker Street. Along with that, our staff provided really robust programming and services in very confined spaces. So I want to give a lot of credit to our staff and a lot of credit to our public for putting up with us during this time of transition. And I think, I really do think everybody did a great job in the situation that we had. So our Hilton Branch Library is about 7,500 square feet. Our site at 129 Boyden is probably about 1,000 square feet. And so we are going from about 8,500 square feet to a building on Baker Street that is 32,000 square feet. So I just want the public to get, very excited about what is to come. And I think that's the biggest opportunity this year is that we'll be opening a beautiful state-of-the-art LEED Gold certified building, all electric. And hopefully this will open at the end of June.
Well,
So I
we
think,
can't wait.
yeah, and everything in 24 really has been leading up to this moment. And just some stats, we were able to circulate 181,410 items. We had 589 programs, 12,675 program attendees, 154,100 people visited our websites, and it goes on and on. We issued more than 1,000 cards last year. And as many of you know, we're part of a library consortium of 77 libraries. And this past year, our consortium purged our library records system-wide. So anybody who had not used a library in 5 years has been purged from the system. So our big push in, I think, the first 2 quarters of 2025 is to re-enroll Maplewood into our library system. And I think that's not going to be a hard push because I think that everybody's going to want to be in that building. So, and then
We're
I'd
moving
say,
town hall into that building.
and I think our biggest resource and our most important resource is our staff. And I shared, in the document, just how involved our staff are locally, in the state and nationally. And that really strengthens the services and the programs that we can provide, and also is a huge asset to our community.
Amazing.
It is. Did you want to go over anything else for 2025?
So, in the coming year, we're going to be opening a building. And, and then we're also going to be, kind of reopening Hilton as a branch library again. So as a full service branch library. So those are 2 kind of monumental tasks. And we've been doing a lot of planning, move management planning leading up to that. And then we're very excited to be planning our opening celebrations along with the community and then doing the things that we do well, like summer reading program, our Ideas Festival, et cetera. And we know there's a lot of demand and a lot of interest in the building itself and community interest in using the building. So we're also working very hard on our policies and procedures leading up to opening so that, everybody has access to this incredible resource.
Are you doing any tours of the building once it opens? Have you thought?
We will be doing tours, yes. Regularly scheduled.
Besides nonstop,
That is part of our LEED certification, that is, that we do that and show this, show the building. And yes, we will be planning regularly scheduled tours.
Great.
I know our youth are very excited for the library to open again. They've been without it. The middle schoolers and the high schoolers haven't had libraries in a while, so they're very excited for it to reopen. And it really is just beautiful.
Yes. And I think you all have had a chance to see it. And we can't wait for the public to see it as well.
So fun. I just can't get over all the walls. Because I went through it so many times with nothing.
Yeah.
It was weird last time.
Good that there are walls.
Yeah, it's good that there are walls.
I liked how your goal here is to move and shelve 60,000 items from a storage facility.
And that's
not.
So that's 60,000 items at the storage facility. And then there's about 8,000 items at our Hilton Branch Library and like 1,500 at 129 Boyden.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not easy peasy, open up in like a day.
So as somebody who likes to take out a lot of books from the library,
Do you return them?
absolutely. I have two, but they just got extended on my return, so they're
you
not due for another couple of weeks. What's the transition, like when you're taking all of these books from storage and from the OEM building to get them in there? We're still going to be able to get books? Is that going to be more like online? Because that's usually what I do.
That's something that we are carefully planning right now, that transition period. And our plan, and Amanda, you can step in and if I misspeak here, but we will be closing our 129 Boyden, moving everything to the Hilton branch and serving and working out of one facility while we're moving into 51 Baker. So all, your reserves and all the materials, you will still be able to pick up at our Hilton branch library. There will probably be about a week to 2 week period where we will have to have all hands on deck and we will close the Hilton branch library, at which time we are a member of a consortium and you will, Maplewood residents will be able to use our neighboring libraries in Millburn and South Orange, West Orange, Livingston, to access services. And we're trying to keep that time period to, to a limited time. I don't know if you want to add anything.
So, thank you. Just to add that, we're so fortunate to be part of this consortium because they have been through this before. They have shepherded many libraries through construction, and they're very supportive of this process because it's helpful to everyone when there are beautiful libraries around the state.
Right.
So we will be working with them as well to plan.
So like, for example, if you requested a book and then you get the notification that it's ready to be picked up, you would go pick it up at like Millburn maybe, or for those 2 weeks, that would just be like you wouldn't do that for 2 weeks.
You do, hopefully for whatever period of time it is, you may pick it up at any one of 76 other libraries as you can right now, but we prefer to see you at Maplewood.
Oh, I see what you mean. We do the drop down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this also would be a really great opportunity to remind all of our residents about Hoopla and Libby.
Yes.
Because they can continue getting ebooks and audiobooks with no delay.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so we also have Canopy, which you can access movies. You can stream movies. We have other resources. What am I forgetting?
Hoopla, Canopy, Libby.
Yeah.
So we should make sure we get our PIO to share this information for residents because they'll want to know.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
We're also planning a townwide mailing prior to opening, just to
Excellent.
people of our resources, ask, get people to come in to do, to get their library cards, hopefully in advance of the opening, because we know that, that people will be very anxious to use the library. And included in the library are 10 meeting spaces. So we went, if people remember, at the old library, there were 2. Those were in very, very high demand.
Yes.
So now there are 10 that Maplewood residents will be able to reserve.
Amazing.
I'm going to have to get a new library card because
Me
mine was
too.
probably
Thanks for
thrown
the
out when
reminder.
you fixed
On
the
in.
Thanks
system.
for the reminder.
If you haven't used it in 5 years.
I haven't.
Use it
My
every
kids are going to be like, what happened to ours? I think they're all using the same library cards. One has one.
So does anybody have any questions about the budget for the
Oh, yeah, that
library?
thing. That thing.
Very
Well, could you
in
talk
digress.
about, I mean, obviously it's a bigger building, it's more responsibility. You've staffed up a bit for it?
Yeah, I mean, we've staffed up modestly for it. So in 2024, we added a custodian. So we now have two full-time custodians at the library. And in 2025, we have a full-time library assistant and a substitute library assistant that we are ready to hire. And so that will help us. I think it's going to be, we're going to have to get into that building and really see what we need. And the great thing about the design is that there are really great sight lines. The stacks in the middle of all the floors are no higher than 4 feet high. So you can really see, we'll have much better sight lines than we did in the old library.
There's no hiding in this library.
Well, I'm sure people will find a way, but it won't be as easy.
Right.
And so, But I think this is going to be a trial year to see what we need. Because we don't know, there's
You don't know
certain
what you
things
don't
that
know.
we really don't know, like what the electrical costs are going to be, I mean, I could go on and on. But yeah, we think we will be prepared.
What is
But
that?
I think the other thing I will mention is that, because I saw that you had broken down that the library is 4% of the municipal budget. In the Buckles Consortium, the average is 5.3.
Is
So
what?
it's 5.3% of a municipal
Well,
budget.
hopefully the electrical will go.
Value in Maplewood is.
There you go. Nice. And I see overall that your budget is pretty tight. It hasn't really changed
I
significantly.
think we
Yeah.
really
Make the
tried
best.
to,
Yeah.
to make it that way. So that, I think this will be a learning year for us to see if that's continues to be doable.
Right.
Hopefully you'll have enough months before you fix your budget for 2026.
Right.
What is that line, library direct expenses? Because
So
that's the
that-
one that went down like 100,000.
Well, last year there was a budget transfer at the end of the year. So
Okay.
that was put back into our budget, and we definitely need that going into doing all these moves.
Oh, I see. And
So
then you're
the-
going back down
The
where you were in 2022.
yeah, so it is,
2023.
it's the same. The
Okay.
increase in the budget this year is really just personnel, the contractual raises of 3.25%. The increase in the health expenses, which are about 11%, and that's township wide. So that's where the increases are.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Anybody?
Great.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank
Very
you.
exciting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I see Mr. Bancroft has come in all ready to go early. Love it. 8:27.
Good evening.
Very efficient this evening. Glad I got over here early.
Yeah, me too.
Good management. Yeah, well done. Well said. And I would start that by saying that certainly from a department head perspective, my compliments to you all, governing body, as well as Mr. Weary, in getting the budget done so quickly and efficiently last year. I think what I want everybody to know is that it certainly helps us in our operation, having our budget in place earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Helps operations. It's not a guessing game. It's not a moving target. You know what you have in your budget. And to get that done quickly and efficiently is certainly helps us to operate. So you should all be complimented for that.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for thanking us.
Thank you.
You want to launch into the court?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest issue, which it really, in so many words, can't be discussed here, goes to turnover. I've written a lengthy narrative on that, so please take time to read that. But it affects everything. I mean, we've been battling this over the last 3 to 4 years. There's some personnel requests in there, which I know we won't discuss here at this meeting. But it goes to the operations. It goes to how you want your court to run. And I know the demands that's been placed on me on years prior. I still think you want that, the court to be run the way it's supposed to. When you have turnover, this year alone was 50%. We had another person we hired and left within a couple weeks in December. So you're getting up around 60% turnover in a year. And it's very tough to talk about accomplishments when that happens. You're more talking about survival more than anything else. And our filings have come back. So pre-COVID, we were averaging around 35,000 filings. And for the last year, we're right around 36,000 filings. That's positive. That's great. I think that's where you want to be. That means officers are back to writing as normal. And that was one of the questions we were asking during the years of COVID and the sliding scale. Will the numbers come back? And the answer is yes, they have. So that's certainly positive. To follow from last year, I made a lengthy statement regarding our processing of parking tickets and the court's ability to suspend drivers for failing to do that. The courts have now enacted that. That came back in September with proposed suspensions. And starting in December, now you have driver suspensions for parking tickets. That's not my doing. That's statewide throughout the state. But it's big news. My preference would not be parking tickets. I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think the term we're going to use is draconian in a sense. How do you want to treat people for a parking ticket? Do you really want to pull their license? I'm not sure if that's not necessarily the take. It's not my opinion. That's the state's edict for now. But I think for more serious violations, leaving scene of accidents, DWI, driving while suspended, no insurance, the more aggressive driving that happens, we cannot suspend those licenses. We may have the ability to issue a warrant, but that's some accountability coming back to the courts, which is, I think, what we need. There's been a lot of discussion, certainly in the state, but certainly locally regarding enforcement and how the officers are enforcing. It only works if on the back end, the court is able to hold that person accountable. And that's some of the tools we use in order to do that. And I think that's what you want. So that's a change for us. Some of the highlights, one of the big things for budgets is centralized notices. So essentially what happens when we schedule a case in our court, we would essentially schedule it the next day. We would print it out, old dot matrix printer in our office, and you would get in your mail one of those official legal notices. We would call them nasty grams, kind of nudging you, telling you, here, please pay this ticket, so on and so forth, or here's your court date, and that's how it would work. What the state has now implemented is they've assumed, temporarily at least, the processing of those notices, which means when we hit the button, out of Trenton, the notices will be generated out to the public.
Yeah.
This could be a huge cost savings for our operations. One of our largest line item is our postage for noticing people, and that's a requirement of any court to give people good notice to appear or respond to a summons. And so not only are you talking about the printing, the physical notice, and then the processing and sending out, and they send it out via bulk. I've asked this question numerous times since it was taken over, and this was in June of 2024, whether this will be continued. I'm not sure of that, whether we've actually had a legitimate answer. The person who championed this was Administrative Director of the courts, Glenn Grant, who you should all be aware has put in for his retirement. So he will be stepping down. There's a new judge, I believe it's Judge Blee.
That's right.
Assignment judge out of Atlantic Cape May. And I'm not sure whether the program will be resumed. So I'm sort of hedging my bet in our budget. We had actually asked for more money because our goal was to go after more notices on tickets that have been delayed or failed to be processed since COVID. I don't want to say it goes back that far, but we've had a backlog of notices because they turned off our ability to send notices out during COVID. And that was the state's position to say, during a pandemic, do we necessarily want to be going after people sending late notices and things of that nature? They said no, and now they've turned back on the switch and said, go after this. Well, we have a repository of late notices and tickets that we need to send out and go after individuals to push them back to the court. You gave us more money. Thank you. We went through it, and two things happened, and this is where you'll see money's unspent in that line item, which is essentially postage. Number one, the state took over mailings.
Yep.
That's savings right there. And number two, we lost staff. So through June of last year, we'd issued about 9,000 failure to appear notices. We were chugging along and doing great. And even our collections by month, you could see the returnables were coming back in. People were paying. They were appearing. They were pleading not guilty. That's what's called reducing your backlog or reducing cases, which is our goal. And then we lost staff. And unfortunately, when you're down bodies, if you continue those notices, you're going to be overwhelmed. And what I'm happy to say is report right now is we're back at 100% full staff. But obviously, since June, that's losing 3 staff members. That's difficult to overcome. So that's where you see some reductions in spending there. We're now in a place where we can go back into that. But the goal of the courts was to try and recover from COVID within 3 years. That was about a year ago when they put that out, a year and a half. So we're about a year and a half away from where they're saying we should be back to where we started. I think we're behind where we want to be right now. That's where I'm making the request. And I've had good conversations with Pat on this. He knows where we stand. Remember, we've had, unfortunately, we had 4 different BAs over about a course of 5 years. It's hard to have a consistent conversations with someone who's managing the court where they have other issues to go on, other problems within a township. That's going to happen. Sometimes it's tough to be the squeaky wheel, as they say. And maybe that's a credit to us. Maybe that's because we're running well. And I'll compliment my staff. It's not easy to operate when you're down bodies, down staff due to turnover. And we have some ideas. I think Pat's listened to it, to his credit. I understand there's other issues in the township that need to be addressed as well. And you have tough decisions to make, and I get that. I'm not the only person who's presenting to you, not only today, but also over a number of days. And we got responsibilities as taxpayers. But I think, as I've explained in here, I think we need it. I think we need consistency in staffing. I think it's going to help our operation. I think it's what you want. I think it's what you demand. And if you can't hear me, I'm kind of screaming down in there saying, please, this is what we need. I've seen too much of this. And remember, I've moved buildings. I've consolidated courts. We've been with South Orange now for 2011 till now, our 14th year, if you believe that. The last 4 years, again, I'll say it as I did last year, have been the most difficult times in the court. Or maybe I'm just getting older. I'm not sure.
Definitely.
Yes, of course. So that's where we're at. We've done some things to make the Zoom experience more palatable to the public and members of the public. We've staggered the session, so individuals aren't sitting online for 5 hours. We're trying to restrict that down to 2.5, and then starting up a second session to try and make it a bit easier. I think anybody being on Zoom after 4 or 5 hours is exhausted, and maybe we're impacting their rights, or maybe they're just saying, here, get me out of here. So to try and change that, I'm very pleased with. I think the response has been better from the public. We're still also allowing people who don't have the means or the knowledge or the know-how to come into our building and access Zoom via a laptop that we provide in our office, and the knowledge and the staff will assist them through the process. As much as we've made advances in technology, and that's fantastic for the working public, people with children and all the tasks in life that we need to deal with. There's some people who either are less fortunate or don't have the ability to get access to technology. We still allow them to come into our building and access a Zoom hearing. So I'm proud of that. And I think we all should be, because I think that's somebody.
So we're never going back to in-person, right?
There are some in person.
Yeah, we still run 2 in-person sessions a month, one for Maplewood, one for South Orange. But based upon
It's just more convenient for everybody.
Yes.
Rather than spend a whole day.
I think for the public, the general public, who can still work and do what they need to do.
Right.
The court's going to make a decision here at some point to say, and I think that's really where that's to be seen. What should be required to come in? Certainly, we have matters that come in that are DWIs, that are domestic violence, complex matters with more complex exhibits. It's just easier to do in person. And I think there's some concepts and ideas there that they're going to need to explore going down the road. Who needs to be face-to-face with a judge, and what impact can that have? Because Zoom is not a courtroom. And I think we'll all feel that about in life and what we're doing. And we need to balance that of what's the import or the sanctity of the court and coming in and being before a judge, and what requirement that entails. So that's to be seen. And I think there's some ideas for that. But for right now, they're still pushing the Zoom. And I think the public right now is, I think they're reaping the benefits. I think they're enjoying it. As much as you can if you have to go to court, I'd say.
Any questions on the line items for the court?
You put a lot of passion into the prose, though.
He does,
Telling
always.
so,
He always does.
I felt your
It's tremendous.
angst over the turnover.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that. I mean,
No, don't be
No,
sorry.
and it's a compliment. I think you put
I am
your
passionate.
heart.
I always rewrite my narrative. I don't try and dial it in. Again, the court is a separate branch of government. There's very few times where I'm able to officially interact with you. I like to be upfront. I like to be real. I like to tell you when we're doing good, we're doing good. I like to tell you if we're doing bad, we're doing bad. I think that's what you pay us for.
Yeah.
I don't think you want us to, yeah, sugarcoat anything. Of course, we also have a new governing body who I think needs to be made aware of what we're doing, what our operations are, and that's ever changing. So to give sort of a background, a history, an update as to where the court stands, what the status is of the judiciary. And again, my compliments to my judges, prosecutors. I think this is the first time in 20 years that I've been presenting that Prosecutor Palma is not present.
Bet she's watching.
We normally go hand in hand. So kudos to our esteemed prosecutor, Annette Palma. She's an asset to us, asset to the court. She's always done well and has always been very supportive. And I'd like to, certainly let that be known. I normally, like I said, I'm used to her either following me or me following her. So it feels strange not having her
Feels
here.
weird, right? He speaks highly of you as well.
We do. I think it's a simpatico relationship.
Yeah, you do.
That's kind of where I mean, you've kind of know about the filings, and just for collections, just so you're aware, we're about 3% up compared to where we were last year in Maplewood, about 7% in South Orange. We're still well below where we were pre-COVID. In both courts, we had massive years in 2019. And 2020 was a major difference. But this was a focus that we were talking about in discussions during budget and where you saw reductions in collections for the township during that time. We're seeing slow progress in coming back for that. And that's just following up on what we need to follow up. I think with hopefully additional support towards the staffing issue, we can recoup some of that and move forward as we had been. And we need to clear out the backlog, and that's the reality of the hurdle that we're facing to get back to doing unique things that we've always done in our court, being leaders in the state as we have been, and that's where we stand right now. So any other questions, certainly welcome that. You've all been very, very supportive over the years, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate you allowing me to speak openly, which you always have, and that means a lot to me. So thank you.
I think Deputy Mayor has a question.
I do. I wanted to ask about the backlog. I remember that I watched this last year, and I remember you talking about this with the licenses. So, or the parking tickets. So the backlog these are tickets that were assessed, but you couldn't collect them for a period of time.
All backlog is essentially an opening and closing of cases by certain means and certain case types. So typically disposed, either a ticket is dismissed or a ticket would be paid or resolved. Let's put it that way. That's our goal in the courts. And my mission is a little separate. So I don't want to go too much into collections here and quote unquote the nasty word of revenue. That's not the edict of the court. Our goal is not necessarily to collect money.
I'm just wondering if people are going to get like a notice that like, hey, you have a parking ticket from like 2020.
Yep. So we'll go through that. Two different things. Our goal is to resolve disputes, just to finish that part, that sentence off. And what we do in order to do that is we send a late notice out. That's called a failure to appear notice, adds on $10. And that's what's pending. From there, it goes to a proposed suspension, and then it goes to driver suspended. So for any ticket that we've sent out a failure to appear on in that backlog, that queue that we have, we're working on to kind of uncover. For all those cases, the state has come in and said, first off, we're going to send you a proposed suspension. Then you have about 30 days to finish that. If you don't do that, then you go to driver suspended. And then it actually gives you another 30 days to actually rectify the matter with the court, even after the driver suspended, before DMV will actually input the suspension.
That's what the state wants you to do.
That's what that's actually what happens.
Oh, as opposed to like just asking people to pay.
So that's the failure to appear. That's that reminder notice, adding on $10, telling people here, you failed to address this ticket in a timely fashion. You can either pay or plead not guilty and come into court. Our goal for backlog is just to try and resolve disputes. And what we're seeing is with the backlog of all the things we haven't issued, our backlog, whenever we're not issuing them, and typically pre-COVID, we would run these notices weekly. That's kind of how the process works. You're constantly opening and closing cases, which is what you want to do. And that's what we're, is our goal. But because the backlog's so large, that's the goal, is trying to keep it.
And when you say this is not resumed for moving violations, you mean they've given you a roadmap for how to collect on parking, but not for moving yet?
Correct. So, for certain enumerated moving violations, such as DWI, we could issue a warrant, and that typically will drive people in, or somebody can actually get arrested. But what we can't do is go and suspend a license, and that's because the law sunsetted during COVID. It was actually December of 2020, and since that time, it's statutory. So as a result, it'd have to come from the legislature, and it has to be a law redone, not via the courts. The courts can actually enact the suspension. They had a court rule dictating for the suspension of the parking ticket. They're actually, the court just followed the state when it sunset. It went away. So it would actually have to be a legislative action to reenact that. So the court, I don't think, would do it on their own. It would actually have to come from the state. I'm not sure how many people know this out there, but it was big news last year, and I think I shocked everybody. I wasn't trying to do that. I was really trying to say is, we need to get back to order, and I think that's what we're used to. That's how the courts worked and functioned previously, and it helps open and close cases. That's how we resolve it, and that's our mission. That's our goal. Again, we don't, in the court, we don't care necessarily about the finding, guilty or not guilty. Our goal is to resolve it, get the matter cleared, and that's our mission. That's one of our goals for the courts.
Your goal is to administer justice, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, Springfield Right. Thank you for that explanation.
Of course.
That's it, unless you have anything else you want us to know.
Now, after me, you're probably back on time.
No, we anticipate for you.
Thank you, Mr. Bancroft.
Y'all, good seeing you all.
Thanks,
You too.
Good luck with your budget.
Our budget is your budget.
Yes. Yeah. Shh. Yeah.
Yeah, be quiet.
That's good.
All right, Mr. Kaloje, you're on Zoom. Let's see.
Oh, there he is.
Mayor, my apologies for that. It's been a rough night.
Okay.
But if you're ready, we can jump into finance department's budget.
Yep.
Pat, I have the ability to share because I'll throw this slide presentation up. Let's see what we got here.
It's right here.
We got this. It's going to show us.
Oh, all right. So Pat put up his the draft version, but that's all right. We can work with it.
Is that okay?
We get that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So the finance department is basically 1.8% of our total budget. This was rounding. If we go to the next slide, we would see that we are a little over 3% in salaries and a little under 1% in other expenses. Obviously, we do a lot of transaction and interaction with both the public and our vendors. The finance department, as it's laid out in this slide, consists of two functions. One is revenue, the other is expenditures and accounting of both expenditures and revenue. So on the revenue side, you have the tax assessor, who's the basis for the entire revenue collection. He is the one who assesses values on properties, often reminding residents that that's all he does. If you've got a beef about how much your taxes are, you need to talk to the tax collector. The tax collector obviously takes the numbers that come from the assessor and then applies the rate that was necessary in order to sustain our budget. And that collection also extends out to sewer fees. And then you have the a municipal finance officer on the other side that is responsible for basically keeping an accounting of everything that's going in and coming out of the township, along with other details such as local public purchasing law, local bond law, local budget law. I think what's noteworthy of this is that by statute, all municipalities need to have four positions that are statutory. 3 of them are in the finance department. You see them on the right here with the assessor, the collector, and the CFO. All of them also need to be licensed. And obviously, the state recognizes the importance of municipal finance. It's the reason why it's the governing body that has the final say on adopting a budget and also has the final say on making payments. That's why you see a bill list every month. We can go to the next slide, Pat. So in Maplewood here, from an assessment perspective, Mr. DeCourt oversees over 7,500 properties that he keeps tabs on. There are over 10,000 sewer units that are also assessed to those 7,500 plus properties. Mr. DeCourt makes determinations as to what properties are exempted. We get a significant number of people who have been moving into Maplewood who are 100% disabled veterans, and so they qualify to not have to pay taxes. They wind up being exempted. That is something that is administered by the tax assessor. I will say this. Mr. DeCourt has our ratio right now at right around 100, which is where you should have landed after a reval. And that's somewhat impressive considering that South Orange at this point has dipped down to 95% in terms of the ratio, just 1 year out from a reval. So that's pretty impressive work by our assessor. From a tax collection perspective, we are the collection agency for ourselves, obviously, the school district, the county. We also collect for our 2 special improvement districts. We're also responsible for sending out the sewer fee billing and the collection. And we're also responsible for all the interdepartmental transactions, some of the shared services we have that we wind up having to bill for. That all falls under tax collection. And then from a finance perspective, we administer a payroll for over 400 employees, pension for over 200 employees. We're responsible for all accounts payable and the money that's going out. We're responsible for debt service that is almost $60 million in obligations. And with the next capital budget that we adopt this year in 2025, that number will move up. And then we are also responsible for our interlocal agreements and any other invoicing such as police outside duty. If you can go next one, next, Pat. So these are the goals that we set and achieved in 2024. We migrated Edmunds accounting to the cloud. The major improvement to that was that departments that are not housed in town hall had a difficulty logging in. It typically would take them 5 minutes to be able to get into Edmunds. And so anytime they got kicked out, they were pretty upset because they would have to log back in for 5 minutes. But now because we're on the cloud, they get the same instantaneous access to Edmunds that anyone in town hall is able to get. The other benefit to that is that we have increased the amount of digital document storage that we can put into Edmunds. So our ability to attach quotes to requisitions, which eventually turn into purchase orders, wiring information for debt service, all of that is now starting to become more robust thanks to being on the cloud. We've also transitioned to electronic purchasing. That was also somewhat cloud-based assisted. And what that has done for us is given us the ability to get out vouchers quicker, get them returned quicker. And that has obviously improved our relationship with our various vendors. If there's a limited number of resources and 2 towns are trying to get the same order and they've only got so many things on the shelf, we know that Maplewood is going to be favored because we pay quicker than most other towns are able to pay. And then lastly, we had the goal of implementing auto pay for our residents. This is the ability to sign up so that we would send out an email a week before we're about to pull your tax payment, just to let you know so that you can make sure there's enough money in your account. And then we would automatically have that payment pulled from your bank and into our bank. And because we are doing the pulling, there is no fee associated with it. So we anticipate that a lot of people who are used to going on what we call the WIP, our online access to be able to pay their taxes or their sewer bill, we anticipate that there will be a lot of people that are going to look to take advantage, particularly for the sewer bills, of being able to have us automatically make the payment when it's due. Our goals for 2025 are the biggest challenge is obviously going to be to set up the stormwater utility and the billing that goes with it. That is going to be a monumental task as we are going to have a lot of moving parts, and hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running and tested before we send out our sewer bills in May. But if we do not, because we have decided that we want both bills to go out on one bill, we will look to delay sending out the sewer bills to June if we are unable to work out all the bugs. But essentially, your sewer bill is now going to wind up having 3 lines to it. One line is going to be for sanitary maintenance, sanitary sewer maintenance. The other one's going to be for sanitary sewer service, and then the other one's going to be for the stormwater utility. One of the other things that we're interested in doing this year is accepting online payments for more than just taxes and sewers. And hats off to Amari Allah. We're very impressed with what they set up in the clerk's office. They have a desktop computer set up so that people can come in and they can wind up processing whatever permit they're looking to get or whatever license they're looking to get, and they can do that online and pay for it online too. So we are interested in looking to expand that so that we can have every department with a desktop at their counters, so that if our residents choose to pay via a credit card, we would have the ability to do that. And then our last goal is to increase our permanent record storage capacity. Despite the fact that we can move digital stuff because of the cloud-based admins, there are still certain records such as tax sale certificates, property cards, things of that nature that we are required to print out and store. And through the years, we're starting to run out of room. And so what we've got right now is a situation where typically a municipal budget has 2 years open, prior year and current year. And unfortunately, because of our limited storage capacity, prior year's going down into the basement, current year is now upstairs. And then when we need to search for a record, it's not the most efficient way to be able to retrieve something. So that is another one of our goals, is to increase some storage capacity in the finance office. The rest of this, I'm not sure, is not really departmental. It's more overview. So maybe we want to stop there and take a look at the finance department's budget and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, if I have a few just on just some line items. Under the 130 section, 209, 212, and 222. It's new equipment, software maintenance, and payroll services.
Okay.
We're all budgeted for a certain amount, but historically is the actual is way less than each one of those lines. And I just
yes.
why are we
So
still budgeting if we never spend that?
well, because in municipal finance, we're only allowed to spend what we budget for. So the fact that we may not have spent the full amount just means we may have realized we needed to kind of dial back or delay a purchase on something because we may need to make a transfer into another department that overspent on a particular line.
No, but
As for
Joe, I'm just talking about like for new equipment, we're budgeting 18,000. Historically, we've spent, last year was 5,000, prior years was 3,000, 2,000, 500. I'm just saying, it
Yes.
seems like it's over budgeted for. And
So,
that,
to answer that specific question, in 2024, we budgeted $18,000 because we were interested in purchasing a machine that would enable us to fold and stuff envelopes so that we wouldn't have to outsource sending out our sewer bills or our tax bills. We'd be able to do it in-house. It turned out that between the time we quoted it and the time we were ready to spend it, that we had exceeded our ability. It was going to cost more than the $13,000 we were originally quoted, and so that's the reason why you're only seeing $5,000 spent there. This year we're asking for $18,000 again because that is to fund our goal of being able to create more storage for permanent records.
okay, 212, software maintenance.
212 is software maintenance. That has gone up because of the Admin's cloud is now costing us a greater amount of service, so we have not fully expended the amount of money that we saw because we were able to convince admins, hey, you should give us a freebie on the first year to convert over to convert over to the cloud, and so they did. We talked them into basically giving us a discount, so we'll wind up spending that $16,000 this year.
Okay. And then the payroll services and ACA reporting, we budget like 5,000 every year and we spend 0 every year. So why are we budgeting for it at all?
So we budget the 5,000 in the event that we're going to wind up being told by the federal government that we have to produce a report that it was particularly an issue with ACA reporting and the Cadillac plans and the whole bunch of whatever goes on with that. We left it in this budget because we're not really sure where the federal government's going to come in terms of what they may require us to do or not do. And so we put the 5,000 in essentially as a placeholder.
And auditing services, line 135, 200.
Yes.
Because I thought we anticipated
I'm sorry.
going way up from 51 to 64.
So the reason that is higher is because it's including some of the additional reports that have typically been placed into professional services in the past. So we just centralized all of our auditing service spending into the auditing line.
So the professional services line is still here, right?
Correct. So last year you can see that we spent almost $75,000. That is now being moved over towards the auditing services. We also anticipate that we're going to need additional help from them in terms of setting up our stormwater utility. So we put money in to anticipate that additional help.
Okay, tax collection, printing expenses. Again, I'm just looking at the, historical, and then it just seems like we're probably about quite a bit of money here. That's when you add all these lines plus the others I haven't mentioned.
And I get generally the question is about money unspent at the end of the year.
My question is, why are we budgeting? I mean, it adds up to about probably $80,000 or more that we're budgeting for that isn't being spent year over year. So why are we budgeting for it?
We're fortunate that our department heads are very good at spending only what they need to. And so there's 2 reasons why that if we hadn't spent last year, we would keep the same amount this year. One, if we move to a system where if you don't spend it, you lose it, we'd be encouraging department heads to spend money near the end of the year so they could guarantee that they would get it in the next year. The second and maybe more important piece across all departments is any unspent money in a line will eventually be realized as a surplus and be contributed to our fund balance.
Yeah, I understand that. It just seems like most of the budgets of the departments we've been looking at I look for that discrepancy, and all these years I've been looking at this, and this one just seems like it's more than normal than the others. So I understand that if we don't spend it, it goes into fund balance. I get it. I just was, maybe we budget a little more closely to what reality is for some, when there's year after year after year, we're spending a fraction of what we're budgeting for, because it's still budgeting and spending money.
I see what the mayor says, because for example, that line that she just said, tax collection, printing, requesting 15,000. There was 15,000 appropriated in 2024. We spent about 5,000. 2023, there was 10,000 appropriated. Okay, we spent 8,000. But I see what you're saying, like maybe we don't need to be allocating 15,000. Maybe it's more like 10,000 or something like that. Right, that's what you're saying, right? And
Yeah,
there's, like,
I
if
just
it's
don't
been
wanna-
if we've been underspending for so many years, other departments seem to have gone down in those lines to account for it. But finance maybe hasn't. And I get the placeholder, like we don't know what's going to happen, so let's
Right.
just keep $5,000 there in case we have to, so we don't have to scramble and get money. I get that, but I guess it's just the magnitude of the differences between
Yeah,
the
I would just like
appropriations.
it to be a little more.
Yeah, we take another look at this
Close.
department.
So I will just say on the tax collection printing, we basically budget to assume that we're going to send out an estimated tax bill and then a final tax bill. And we've been fortunate for the past couple of years where we've been able to send out a final tax bill. So we've saved ourselves on having to
Right.
print two tax bills.
Yep.
And that basically is the discrepancy between the two.
Right.
We're going to also need to be concerned about that in terms of sending out our sewer bills as well. So what we're doing is making sure that we have the ability to send out estimated and final bills if we need to in both of those areas. And we can certainly cut that line and then just treat it as an emergency appropriation if it turns out that, we need to send out an estimated bill and a final bill. But ultimately, emergency appropriations are just guaranteeing that we're going to raise that in next year's taxes.
Understood. And I don't think I'm asking for emergency appropriations or anything. I'm just asking that the numbers reflect a little more accurately the history of spending. So, and since the last 2 years, this year and last year, budget is on time, if not early, then we save that. And I expect we'll save it again this year.
We'll take another look at it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Got more for his presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I was just finishing the finance department. No? Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Kaloje, you can go back to the other pictures, the weighted thing, the scale, your presentation.
No,
The other was
but
just
if
an
you wanted
overview,
to-
and I'm not sure if Mr. Worry wants us to do the overview today or if he wants us to do it at our next budget
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah,
You want it
those-
next budget
the
meeting?
following slides will be for the next budget meeting, but he does have revenue administration, tax assessment, other things that we can go through if the township committee has any questions.
I just asked for the next budget meeting. Can you make these a little bigger? I can't.
Sure.
I have perfect reading vision. I can't read this.
Sure.
That's all. Thank you.
I didn't hear the end of what you just said, Mr. Worry.
Oh, beyond the finance lines, which you were just looking at,
Uh-huh.
Mr. Kaloje also has the revenue lines, tax assessment lines, statutory lines, if you'd wanted to go through any of those, debt service.
I don't see any of that in this spreadsheet.
Statutory utilities and insurance, are we doing those?
That's what he just
Yep,
said.
those will be, for insurance, that's mine. I'll do that when.
Insurance you're going to do tonight, right?
Spreadsheet, if we go over to the tabs that are coming in after the libraries, right? We had police, health, library, then there's a tab marked statutory.
Mm-hmm, got it. I'm sorry, I missed it. Got it. You want to go into the statutory now?
Sure. So the statutory items that are required for the most part are required, or they fall under the category of a separate portion or part of the budget. We can see that we are budgeting $200,000 for accumulated leave absence. Last year's 403 was to accommodate a settlement that the township had, and it's the reason why it was almost double from last year. We're continuing to put money aside for the tax appeal. We have one major tax appeal based on the reval that we anticipate may result in us having to refund money. And so we are starting to put away money in a trust fund so that wouldn't cause a tax spike in the following year. From a pensions perspective, we see that the public employees retirement system has remained relatively flat, and we see a significant decrease in the police and fire retirement system. That is a function of the fire department is no longer paid. We're no longer assessed in how to pay for the fire department salaries. That is now all on SEFD. And so that has significantly dropped. We budgeted $350,000 for a capital improvement down payment. So that gives us the ability to do about $7 million in projects. And then our debt service has somewhat decreased over last year. It would have been more significant if it wasn't for the interest on our bond anticipation notes to the tune of $296,000. This is pretty much the bottom as we continue to move forward with capital projects, and we do another bond anticipation note for funding this year's projects. We will see debt service increase next year over this year. And then in terms of deferred charges, we have $379,000 right now set to help offset the pool, as we have established a goal of decreasing the fees that we're charging for membership. We are still paying our master plan, which is 46,000, roughly $700. We've got a couple more years on that. We also have our reval. This is the second year of paying our portion of the reval. The reval, to remind everyone, cost us a little over $500,000, almost $600,000. The state allows us statutorily to take that and make it a 5-year payment, which we are doing. And then we also have a remaining couple of years on the COVID note that we took out. That was back when COVID first struck. The state allowed municipalities to take a 3-year average of their revenues instead of only what they had brought in from the year before, because obviously everyone's revenues plummeted when there was a shutdown. Once we set that up, we were able to then borrow money in order to make up for that lost revenue. This is the mechanism for paying back the money that we had borrowed. We also have a special emergency note for the SEFD merger. This was to clear out all their accumulated leaves so that SEFD started with a clean slate for all their new firefighters. And so we're in the second year of paying that note down as well. The good news on this is because we have significantly improved our financial position from when I first started here in 2018, we were basically able to lend ourselves the money at 0% interest. So we are now just paying back the various trust funds that we borrowed in order to make those initial payments, and we're restoring them to the levels that they were before we borrowed that. But if we scroll down a tad more, and I don't know because I'm looking at a different spreadsheet, you can see that the statutory expenditures for us represent 18% of our budget. There is very little we can do to change those numbers. I mean, we could, in theory, decide that we're going to roll the dice on tax appeal. We could decide that we're going to, roll the dice on the number of people that may be retiring this year. We could decide that we don't want to do any capital projects. But other than those 3 areas, everything else is pretty much cast in stone. Where else did we want to go, Mr. Worry? Utilities?
I think we're going to utilities, but let me see if anybody has questions on statutory.
Sure, my apologies.
I don't think so. Okay. Utilities?
So from a utilities perspective, and it represents roughly 5% of our total budget, we did exactly what was just suggested up at the dais, and we synchronized the last year payments with this year's requests with a little extra, anticipating that there's going to be some increases from either American Water or PSE&G. And then the only other major spot is if we go down towards the bottom for the joint meeting. We got a letter from them saying that we have an increase in the amount they're charging us, or our prorated portion of it for services. And so we're going up roughly $100,000 from what we were billed last year.
And will that go in the sewer bills, or will that go like divvied up? Or is that a one?
So yes, the sewer bills are part of our anticipated revenue, and that is designed to offset the payments that we need to make to the joint meeting.
Okay. Children, I know you're getting punchy.
No, we're talking about the DeHart community.
It says DeHart Community Center, not Maplewood Community Center.
Yeah, I think it's the Hart Community Center.
Check with.
It's
Nobody
a pain
knows
point
where
of Mr.
Maplewood Community
Zaluka's.
Center is. I know, but nobody knows it. All right, do you want to go into insurance since no one's?
Yes. So the last piece is insurance. We have liability insurance and workers' compensation insurance. Both of those are through the New Jersey Intergovernmental Insurance Fund. We are seeing over those 2 lines a combined 10% increase from last year. That's a direct result of cost of claims. So each year they assess how much they take in from us and how much they pay out in claims, and they use that, and they'll look at multiple years and use that to evaluate our risk. And so
Claims that we pay out or jointly?
That they pay out. They only look at claims that they pay out.
No, I'm sorry. Claims that they pay out for us?
That's correct.
Not claims that, not in the aggregate.
No,
just for us.
Yeah, so each municipality is independently assessed.
Right. So, and that's everything from a trip and fall to somebody who didn't want to lose their job.
That's right.
All lawsuits.
Yeah, yeah. And and including like workers' comp coverage as well falls under this. And so, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There are some other things that may affect claims. So while 10% is high, I think that other municipalities that didn't have our claims experience, we're still seeing anywhere from 6 to 8% increases. And so 10% is high, but I think generally this is an area where, we wouldn't have expected to see a 2.5%, 3.5% increase.
Seems like more than 10% though.
And then the next line is for group health insurance. So we had, at the beginning of 2024, moved from state health benefits plan to the health insurance fund, which is under the New Jersey Metro HIF. The increase there this year is 11.76%, which is a higher number than we expected. We had hoped to see somewhere in the 4 to 6% for these. Fortunately, it's less than the state health benefit plan increase, which is 16.5%. So we're just under 12. A lot of the increase this year was driven by the GLP-1 drugs, so the weight loss and diabetes drugs that were recently come online. Those gave a dramatic increase, and there was some federal legislation that changed how and in what amount claims are paid, and that affected the overall rates as well.
Did we not see reductions in these because of SCFD? Like our health insurance, didn't we move a lot of people off?
We did. So these are actuals on health insurance. The question is, we had, I guess, decrease, they would have seen that in 2020.
What year did they go off our house?
24.
They went off in halfway through 23. And so you would
How
see
many
the change from 2022 to
We went
now.
down 10%.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the liability, in the workers' comp, we didn't go down, we went up.
Yeah, on workers' comp, there wasn't a large adjustment that was there. Even when they had calculated it for half the year, it was less than $100,000 that we would have saved. We're still pursuing them for that money, so it wasn't a dramatic increase. But you're right in that so SEFD on the health insurance side wasn't on for all of last year. So that 10% is just our claims. But we could go back and look in the change from 21 to 22 to 23 to see what reduction there was.
Well, there must have been something in workers' comp because we're going from 514 in 2024 to 427 in 2025.
Yep.
So that might account for removing the firefighters.
Could we go back to what you said about the insurance? So weight loss and diabetes drugs are making insurance premiums go up?
It's part of it. You would expect that, they're going to go up, and they're going to go up higher than inflation. I think national
don't
average
need
is
it.
around 8%. And so I wouldn't say that that's why we are at 11.5%. But the reason why we're seeing this now is a lot of those drugs weren't on the market a few years ago, and they become very popular very quickly. And that does have an impact to total payouts. Yeah. And if you look at, that's on our prescription plan. If you look at our prescription plan, they're the top 2 of prescriptions that in terms of cost.
So the weight loss drugs are weighing on our budget.
So there's a flip side to that, in that long term, there's an expectation that people will be healthy.
They're healthier.
Right? So
Well,
this is-
people will be healthier.
including our employees who benefit from these drugs. And so I think that,
And if they feel better, they maybe have higher morale, better performance,
Sure.
all kinds of stuff.
yeah, yeah. So the hope is that these medications now will prevent higher claims in the future. But right now, we're realizing the increase in plan costs.
Okay.
But that's the increase in that's not meaning our employees are on the weight loss drug thing.
It does, yeah. I mean, the employees in the plan. So the Metro HIF covers
Oh, many towns.
somewhere around 10 towns. And yeah, the employees in the plan, in terms of what they're using, those are the top two prescription drugs. The prescription plan, when this is the HIF is a combination of medical and prescription. Prescription went up almost 30%.
Okay. Any other questions on insurance?
Shouldn't be so expensive.
Do we have any people on Zoom who would like to ask questions?
Anyone joining us on Zoom would like to address the Township Committee, please raise your hand now. I see no hands, Mayor.
Oh. Yes,
Do we,
Frank.
Come on up, Frank.
do we have people online watching?
We do.
Okay.
We do. Someone was texting me that they were watching. It's exciting.
What's that?
Someone was texting me that they were watching. It was exciting.
Yeah, we have a few on Zoom and there are others likely watching on YouTube.
Well, basically, then, unfortunately, okay, this might seem a little stupid or crazy, but the people upstairs, were kicked out, and the landlord basically started revising his apartment. Okay, and I call him Rolling Hills because he doesn't really know what he was doing. Had ceilings falling down, and you had kitchen ceiling go down, the living room ceilings go down. You know, for one particular thing, my house is in shambles, and also knocked out the electric, and the electric basically didn't work for. I had a couple of rooms. I had a kitchen room working okay. Bedroom, there was one circuit that was working, and everything else basically was knocked out. And I mean, I'm not one to complain about anything. Even though I was in the shadow of walking through darkness just to get to the bathroom, you know. I mean, I bought lights and everything else for my wife to hop in, but she never leave wherever she put them, and she would always be walking through the darkness, you know, in this apartment. And this was going on for half a year, you know. Well, I'm being kicked out, so that's one thing. I have to go. But then this landlord goes and starts writing late charges from back 30 years, 20 years ago, whatever it is, you know, that he wants, taking me to court, and he wants $10,000 for late charges, you know. The only thing I would like to do, possibly, is I never signed up for senior citizen housing or anything like that. But is there any way to sneak in just to take a room or something there?
We should connect you to help.
Huh?
Yeah. When do you go to court?
I'm going to court next Monday.
Oh, of course, next Monday. Do you have a phone number where I can reach you?
My problem is too with cell phones.
It's okay.
My land phone got knocked out, so then so my wife wasn't paying that bill because the phone got knocked out, and then
It's okay. You know what we'll do? After the meeting, I'll come over and we'll talk and we'll figure out a way through. But you should get some help.
No.
You have rights. You can't just be kicked out.
But I'm just he made me sign some paper back in the middle of the year, middle of the summer, because he blocked his car and things like that. But I mean, I mean, I don't mind being kicked out of the apartment, and I've been there too long. But it's kind of like, he kicked a lady out upstairs, okay, and her rent was $850. But then when he went to court, he wrote down $1,800 that she was paying per month. You know, and
Okay.
like mine, I over the year, I'm supposed to be a senior, so I supposed to have a rate of like 4% or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was jumping $100 here, $200 there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my rent's 16, but he's wrote down 17 now, for this rent,
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well, let's connect after the meeting and get more details. I don't want you to tell too much of your personal details because, this meeting's being recorded and everybody's watching. So let's connect after the meeting. I will come over and we will connect and we'll get you some help. All right? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis.
Sure.
Nice that you happen to have that position. Nobody else for public comment. I'd take a motion to adjourn till
So
tomorrow
moved.
night.
Second?
Mar- Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Sengel?
Yes.
Sermon?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you, everybody.